Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Oh So Curious Times DCU Daily. We last did this, it feels like, in 2024, and probably because we did. So this is the first episode of Oh So Curious Times DCU Daily of the new year. We hope you are joining us. If you are joining us live, then hello and welcome. We already saw Michael in the chat, so hello to Michael. And if you're checking us out after we are live, then fantastic. We will take that as well. John's talking about something to do with the thumbnail, whatever. We'll get into that later. Right now, I have to tell you guys all about what's going to be on today's show because we've got so much to get into today. So, of course, we're going to be talking about what's on the thumbnail, which is that, hey, Annie Muschietti doesn't seem to think that Robert Pattinson is joining the DCU anytime soon, which is in line with what James Gunn has said, Matt Reeves has said, and, you know, so it toes the party line. But the way he described it, I think is something we want to get into. We'll talk about it. We're going to review Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, which is now on Netflix, so you could watch it from the comfort of your home. And then, of course, we do have to look ahead to Den of Thieves, Pantera, and we have some MCU news. Is Robert Downey Jr. actually in Fantastic Four First Steps? The Thing, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, seems to think that he, isn't, but he's also keeping his lips sealed. But Jimmy Kimmel tried to get it out of him. Not so successful in doing so. But he, still got a few hints and some details about what has been going on in the set of Fantastic Four. So we're going to talk about that and so much more. It's also Elvis's 90th birthday. So with that in mind, let's start the show. Hello, everybody. Okay, we've got Liz, we've got John. I'll start with you, Liz. How was your day? Were you at the movies, and which movies did you see?
It was very nice. Thank you. Yes, I was at the movies today. I finally caught Nosferatu. It is incredible. And I saw The Last Showgirl, which was also very good and jam-packed with other stars. So if you guys get a chance, get to your local theater, check those out. I will be seeing Den of Thieves 2 tomorrow. I'm very excited for that one as well. So look forward to seeing that.
Nice. I mean, hey, look, you have seen more movies in the past week than I have in a little while. So I am a little envious, but nonetheless, it sounds like you've been at the movie theater, you've been watching them at home, and that's what this show is all about. It's for the love of movies. And speaking of which, of course, John, you have a love of the movies. So how have you spent your day today? And we've been here like pretty much every day of the week, so I don't know what else you could have been doing other than just
nothing,
preparing for the next episode of DCU Daily.
just spending like 10 hours of my day just preparing for the next episode and just going over. No movies, unfortunately. I'm gonna try and make Sunday as my movie day because I got nothing going on those days. So I'm gonna try and once certain movies start coming out, then like I'm gonna see Wolfman. I want to see Dogman. I know all my friends are making fun of me, but I really want to see that. I grew up with the Captain Underpants book, so I'm like, I really want to see that. It looks like a lot of fun. So I and then whatever weird stuff is coming out, I'll probably try to catch that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of still awards fair coming out, and then some movies even coming back into theaters as we work our way up to the Oscars. Speaking of which, we do have some news about the Oscars that we'll be getting into shortly, and to do that, let's hit that news intro and get things started.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding. You're kidding. I can't open the envelope without this.
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. And you're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow! Wow!
You know, that news intro is actually very topical for some of the stuff we are talking about today. I
I'm just
also
saying, like,
just regret not using that intro for the one episode of news that we did where we did talk about, Will Smith potentially being a Neo in a Matrix reboot, because you've got all the pieces right there in the intro. I'm like, it's all right there. But anyway, thank you, Antonio. Hit the like button if you guys are watching. Well, you know what? We're gonna start off by talking about the MCU. You saw Robert Downey Jr. on the screen there in the intro, and like I said, very topical. So let's get that started here with the Fantastic Four movie, the new Fantastic Four, the first steps. FFFS, right? Fantastic Four, for yes, that's
Fantastic
the correct
Four
amount
babies.
of Fs.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what it reminds me of.
Or for F and F's sake. But anyway, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, who's playing the Thing in the Fantastic Four, was recently on Jimmy Kimmel, and he was asked about, can you tell us anything that you can, that wouldn't get you in trouble, which probably everything he wants to say would get him in trouble, about the filming process of the Fantastic Four. Specifically, Jimmy Kimmel was like, hey, there's been rumors. Have you been filming with Robert Downey Jr. at all? And to that, he was like, yeah, we basically live together now, which is complete sarcasm. But the fact that he wasn't like, oh no, he wasn't on the movie, he kind of sidestepped the question entirely. I wanted to get your opinion on this, Liz. Do you think Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom is actually part of the same continuity, the same universe or timeline as Fantastic Four? Yeah, and why do you think that?
Because it's Marvel, and they make it all connect. Because again, we're talking about multiverse. We're getting into variants now. We're trying to connect everybody. Now they're talking more about connecting elementals into everything and getting back to that storyline. So I don't necessarily see him showing up in the film itself. I expect he will show up in the end credit scene, possibly, but he's going to be in it. For sure. They have to connect the pieces. And what better way to hype up the upcoming Avengers movie, which they're already talking about ad nauseum, than to make sure that it makes some sort of appearance in this film. It's totally happening.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? There were some more details that came out of that interview. So there's a quick summary here that Culture Crave put together. So I'll just read it out quickly, and then we could talk about it. He also talked about, Ebon, Moss-Bachrach talked about the fact that they film the scenes for the Things, iconic line, it's clobbering time. So we're going to get that, which quite frankly, I think they tried to sidestep a little too hard in the Fan Four stick.
They tried to add it back in. It was his brother's fucking thing after he
it's just stop overthinking the shit out of him, just and then he's gonna use
it to fucking
anyway,
as a way of enforcement. It's
I mean, they did the Hulk smash line perfectly in Avengers, so why not? There's definitely a right way and a wrong way to do these things, and
or you just do things like they were written.
In a world where Hulk smash exists or Avengers Assemble, all that stuff is in a movie, you do not need to have lines like, when you take on great responsibility, great power will come, or stuff, just don't overthink it. People know what they're looking for. It's going to get a reaction. Just give it to them and embrace the comic book.
Yeah, actually respect your fans. That's crazy.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, yes. John
it's just that's why I hope in future movies when you have maybe more ridiculous costumes, because I know a lot of people were kind of shitting on Joseph Quinn's woolly sweater kind of look when that video from set. I liked it. I thought it was good. It was fine, but it got shit on entirely. Oh, what a downgrade from the fucking Johnny Storm and Fantastic Four from the 2000s, which is you can only go up from there. But people were clowning on that, and it's just I hope we get to a point where it's if there's a silly costume, just use the silly costume. I love the Netflix shows, I do, but the ongoing middle finger to like the original like 70s costumes got a little fucking tiring after a while. Like, I love Luke Cage. I thought that was a great show, but when he has like the bracelets, he has the loose fitting yellow shirt. I'm like, oh, that's great. And he's like, I look like a damn fool. I'm like, go fucking suck a dick, Marvel. Like, come on. I get it's like supposed to be all self-serious and shit, but like sometimes give us a little bit of the corn. I just want to see a little bit of the corn, the cheese. Is that too much to fucking ask, you dick bags? Anyway. I just
great.
like, give me it's clobbering time. Give me I want to see like fucking, you know, the Thing in a thong, like in the comics, like that. I want to see that. That would be funny. That's cool. Like, give us the silly shit. Fucking James Gunn is giving us a superpowered dog in 6 months. Like, come on. I just want to see that level of silliness. Is that too much to ask?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, one of the other things that he also mentioned is one of the other things that Ebon mentioned was the fact that Andy Serkis helped out with the mocap filming,
of course he did.
I mean, great, of course, but I'm like,
he's the one guy.
I don't understand. Why do you need someone to step in and do that? I don't understand this. Like, why can the actor not do that?
It's
so
a little
weird
funny because it seems like he's the default go-to across Hollywood.
He's the guy.
This.
Or Sean Gunn. It's either him or Sean Gunn. It's him or Sean Gunn. That's who they
he's
use.
the mocap guy.
And I don't get it.
He was probably stopping by on set, and they're like,
I never understood why Sean Gunn was doing Rocket. Bradley Cooper's an actor. He's voicing the character. Put him in the goddamn suit, cover him in dots. I don't understand why we need stand-ins for this shit. It's so weird to me. I love Andy Serkis. He's a wonderful man. I met him last year.
It's like the Virgin Bradley Cooper only doing the voice. Vin Diesel, the Chad Vin Diesel standing on stilts to make him seem like more in the character of Groot. Like, I remember that shit. That was great.
I do, yeah. Well, I mean, he said he was very generous. I get it. I mean, for all we know, is like Andy Serkis
who doesn't
stopped by
like a
on
paycheck?
set.
I mean, I just don't understand why we have to go to someone outside to do this.
I get it, but I'm like,
helped.
let's not.
I don't think he actually was on set. I think he was like maybe a consultant or something.
Either that, or like he was like he happened to be visiting the set, and they were like, we're working on mocapping some elements.
You were in Venom, right? You directed that shit. Get over here.
And then he was like, oh yeah, you should probably do it that way, and maybe you should like do things this way, because not only has he done a lot of like mocap himself, he's actually directed. I think he directed. Well, yes, he directed one of the Venom movies, and then he's directed other projects now which has involved essentially some mocap work. So Andy Serkis is the Hollywood go-to. He's the expert for mocap.
Yeah, Andy Serkis is
probably just swung
the
by
digital
set and,
creature guy. Doug Jones is the practical. Creature guy. That's what it is. Like, that's
exactly
two of them.
I just think it's.
I mean, look, I'm okay with it. Like, it's probably uncredited work.
I mean, I still hate Ebon Moss-Bachrach because he's a fucking asshole. But like, outside of that, like,
but look,
see, we need to talk. We need to talk on the side, John, because you have all these opinions about these people, and I'm like, where are you getting this information?
Because he's a dickbag. That's why. Because he was like, right when he got cast for the Thing, he was like, oh, practical effects are shitty and dated. Only CGI effects are good. And I'm like, suck a dick. I fucking hate you.
I mean, he's a millennial, so I don't know.
He's a fucking dipshit. It's like, that's why you fucking... Oh, look, guess who got the Golden Globe? Jeremy Allen White, not you. So eat a dick, cousin. All right. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, huh, sweetie?
Okay.
Fucking shut the fuck up. So... That's
all right then.
It's just like, I fucking hate like, oh, practical effects are so dated. It's like, bro, have you seen the CGI? Like, once a modern Marvel movie comes out, the CGI is dated. Like, have you seen Marvels? That shit was. Have you seen the scene in anything in Thor: Love and Thunder? That shit looks dated 5 years when it got released. Like,
I mean, even Infinity War, some of the end scenes after the snap, it was was bad. It was, and
It
I
was
can
bad.
admit that it was real
Like,
bad. They should have been ashamed of
it's been
themselves.
like, I feel like we hit our peak in like mid to late 2000s, and now we've been just going because it's so easy to do that it's just been going downhill ever since. Like, again, I go back to like, look at, it's amazing how the Venom symbiote looks better in Spider-Man 3 than in any 3 of the Venom movies.
Yeah.
Or like, look at Davy Jones in Dead Man's Chest or At World's End, and then like Javier Bardem in like Dead Man's Chest, or not Dead Man's,
Yeah.
Dead Men Tell No Tales, and it's just like,
Yeah.
how, huh? How the hell does this work? How do you get worse when shit is getting better?
Because they're just
How?
phoning it in. They're like, oh, the computer's got it. We're good. Like, okay.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing? That's why like the Guardians movies are so refreshing, because so much of that, I mean, some of it looks a
Yeah,
little
so much of
dated,
that
but,
is
like,
Sean Gunn. Is
but no,
Well, no,
like, I
but like,
remember,
guys, this is we.
I know
we,
what you
look,
mean, though.
we often blame this on like the VFX artists because by
it's not
talking
their
about
fault,
it,
not totally their
that's
fault.
what I'm saying. Because
Right.
it's
They
the
don't go to,
it's the
like, they can't go
implication.
to the bathroom.
It's not
so
no
they're
no
like,
no
"All right,
because
fuck
what
I'll
it
phone
says,
in."
yeah, because when you criticize the VFX in a movie, naturally you're like, oh, because they did it wrong. No, the problem is like a lot of times they don't get enough time. They're doing late changes,
and all that
and
shit.
and that's what was. And it's, you know what, one of the biggest things that doesn't get talked about with like bad VFX that people notice is the stuff. It's art direction. Good art direction matters. This is the big thing with how VFX were done back. Like for example, the Davy Jones situation, right? That when they did that at the time, the rendering technology today, the way you can have water, digital CGI water interact with other elements, you can do way better today than you could have ever done in the past. But back then they knew the limitations, so they shot stuff in a way where they had just enough practical elements to kind of lean into the practical where they needed the help, and then they CGI'd the rest. Nowadays, what happens sometimes is they get lazy because they're like, we'll just CGI all of that. And then we'll just CGI all of that. The lazy attitude is just as bad as like the CGI we get out of it. So I think, and also a lot of times you don't get enough time. This is where I think you just mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy is a great example. Superman so far looks great for the exact same reason that James Gunn is giving his filmmakers the time, the VFX artists the time to get it right, and he's got a plan that he put in place and he's following through on it. He's not doing late changes and then putting really tight deadlines on VFX artists to turn things around and produce quality at an amount of time that is quite frankly unreasonable. And that's something which we should see more of, rather than like let's rush things to meet a release date, for example, which happens a lot more with these bigger movies than you sometimes realize. I mean, and that's how we end up with those terrible VFX sometimes. But as long as we are giving the VFX artists enough time, I think the technology today is amazing. James Cameron, man, he's the perfect example of this. He can take 9 years to make the next Avatar movie, and each time, like you're
About
like,
the same time that Matt
is
Reeves
the
can write a
peak
script.
of CGI. It's I mean, clearly, you know what? Let's not go down that rabbit hole just yet.
I'm sorry, it was
But-
an easy joke to make. I'm sorry.
Look, one of the biggest things that Ebon Moss-Bachrach did talk about, or rather didn't talk about in that interview with Jimmy Kimmel, was that when he was basically asked, hey, tell us about Robert Downey Jr. on the set of Fantastic Four. And he basically refused to straight up address it. He sidestepped it and he was like, I've been through rigorous media training, pretty much saying, even if he was on set, I ain't telling you shit. So we've been speculating, of course, that RDJ's Doctor Doom does potentially appear in Fantastic Four First Steps. So, John, I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think that Robert Downey Jr.'s character has a significant role in this movie? Do you think he has a cameo in the movie? Or do you think he's just not in the movie at all, anywhere?
I think he'll be at the most, it'll be a cameo or a post-credit scene. Like, that's what I think. I don't think he's going to have a major role. I know there was the rumor, like, oh, it's going to be 15, 20. No, I don't think that at all. I think it's going to be like a post-credit scene. I think he'll maybe have a cameo, maybe like you hear his voice. I don't think we're going to be getting a lot in the movie.
Yeah. No, I mean I think that's exactly that's literally the rumor that Jimmy Kimmel uses to ask him the question in the interview, and ultimately like he kind of completely sidesteps it. We got Retro Edits in there saying hello, good morning. Well, good morning to you, Retro. It is nighttime for us, but good morning to you. TC24 in the chat saying that's because Disney went crazy with the volume, thinking they could microwave CGI. Well, exactly. I mean, I think it's the volume is another tool that you can use, and when you use it well, it will produce fantastic results, like the first Mandalorian season. But then,
Yeah.
With Obi-Wan and the other more recent
Well,
Star
and
Wars
they're
shows,
doing
like
it all with the latest Star Wars show with
yeah.
Jude Law. The name is escaping me, but
Although
that
I've
was all
heard good
volume
things
as well.
about, I've heard
No,
good
and
things about that
yeah,
one.
I've heard
Yeah.
nothing but good things. But I literally just heard an interview where he was saying yes, it's all volume, and it
Yeah.
it is a game changer if used properly, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, TC24 pointing out a perfect example of where I think CGI is a problem today. And I think Marvel is particularly bad with this stuff because something like I remember seeing this in Thor: Love and Thunder. There were parts of the movie where he was actually wearing a helmet, and then there were parts where it was clearly CGI, and you could see that they had tracked it onto his head, and it was not actually there. In fact, the same thing was true for some scenes with Natalie Portman's Thor, like where she was clearly wearing a CGI helmet. And the problem with that is those decisions, why are you not making those decisions when you're actually filming the movie? Why are those decisions being made in post production? Sometimes what happens is they're going back and refilming things, and for continuity's sake, they have to change things up. But I'm like, why are you reshooting such significant parts of the film and reorganizing so many things that you have to go in and make these kind of stupid changes where clearly you don't have enough time to give a VFX artist or a team of VFX artists enough time to get it right, and then you end up with bad VFX like the floating head that's a Zoom call that looks way worse than any Zoom call I've been on, and I'm like, you had $150 million budget to get it right, but this is the kind of thing that Marvel has had trouble with in recent years.
$310 million for that movie.
Oh god, but look, Fantastic Four First Steps, I understand that they're doing a lot of it with CGI, but I do hope there's some, hidden, and oftentimes there are some hidden practical elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
And while, the thing might be entirely animated, because when you look at the design, if they're going with truly that comic book kind of, larger than life design, it's better to do it with CGI and it's going to look better. I do hope that, for some of the other characters, there's a little, wherever possible, they can use some, practical effects. Even though most of the powers of the Fantastic Four, you can't really do that, but there's definitely going to still be a lot of
you
VFX
can. We saw the
shots
Roger
in the
Corman
movie.
version do it all practical, so...
Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to cross this over with Thor and Captain America and Iron Man, like, can you really... Like, I'm just, it's you gotta, like, at some, like, Marvel has a certain standard for what they're looking for. But you know what? Overall, this all sounds fantastic to me. The fact that we're gonna get it's clobbering time. Andy Serkis helped out with the mocap. He's the man for the job. If there's anyone in Hollywood who knows how to do mocap, he does. So, and also, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, he's like, I've been media trained. You will not get me to slip you an insider's note on this. I'm not Tom Holland. But with that in mind, of course, I did see this little thing here. This is from Daniel RPK, one of the scoopers we talk about a lot. Again, he's one of those people who gets things right often enough that you want to pay attention, but he also gets things wrong enough times that you want to look at this and be like, take it with a grain of salt. This isn't necessarily something that is actually true, or it might be outdated information. But nonetheless, he said that the writers of Avengers Doomsday, they're still working on the script and they have until March to finish it. I wanted to get your opinion on this, Liz. Do you think the fact that that script isn't even done yet, is that something that could potentially be a problem? B, does that mean that RDJ's overall story arc hasn't really been figured out yet as Doctor Doom? And then C, does that imply that he's actually, is he not in Fantastic Four after all? Because if they don't even know how his story plays out all the way in Avengers Doomsday, then why would they put him in Fantastic Four? What do you think?
I don't care, honestly. I'm so fucking sick and tired of, the script's not done, that means it's a disaster. What it means is the script isn't done because they're making edits, or it's just a certain draft, or there's one thing they've got to tweak here, one thing it could mean so many number of things. I'm so sick and tired of these vague ass articles trying to like signify that there's some major discord going on behind the scenes. Like, first of all, the movie's not coming out until, what did we say, 2026, 2027? Like, who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Like, talk about something relevant that has to do with, you know, what's going on tomorrow or next week. I'm so sick and tired of speculating about shit that's not coming out for years from now. Like, it's just, it's so dumb. It's not worth a conversation. But no, it's a script is a script is a script. You're going to have rewrites. You're going to have some changes. You're going to, maybe an actor dropped out. Maybe the timeline for when they wanted to shoot didn't work. So we'll use that time to retweak some other shit. There's any number of reasons as to why the script is not set in stone just yet. It's January. They have 2 full months to finalize it. Okay. Like, it's just, it's so stupid to me. Like, talk to me about it in April. If it was supposed to be done in March and it's not done by April, then we can have a conversation about it. Like, you guys are just all these people that just jump on these stupid things. Like, what a fucking waste of time. It really is.
I mean, I will say this though, the fact that the movie is set for a 2026 release, right? I think I forget what month. It might be like May 2026.
Yeah, it's usually May because they like to, you know,
yeah,
reward me on my birthday with a Marvel film every year. It's great. Yeah, but again, okay, you've got 2 more months. Talk to me in 2 more months.
No, but just I'm just thinking of it like this way. If the script isn't even done and the movie releases in May 2026, that means that if the script is done by March, they will have like barely 14 months to go and film the whole thing, get it through post-production. And like one of you guys, I think the watcher was like, feel bad for the VFX artist for this. I'm like, I do too, because they'll probably film this thing for 4.5 months and then only give the VFX artist like 6 months to do the VFX for a movie of this scale.
I think people are putting way too much weight on the script. You know where the movie's going. You know what the expectation is. They can definitely start some shit prior to the script being finalized and done and dusted. I'm sure they've been given some scenes here and there. They've been given some stuff to kind of think about, to work on, to start with the production. So I don't find any merit in talking about what ifs when you don't have the full story. I have no intention to speculate on the vaguest of fucking headlines when we're literally talking about maybe there's a paragraph that they're missing or they're going to retweak one scene. What does unfinished fucking really mean? And it's just so ridiculous. Well, so I don't care. I really don't care. Again, talk to me in April. If April comes and it's not set in stone, then yeah, maybe we've got some problems.
By the way, Liz, just gonna say, I think your microphone is getting really wonky, so you might have to
the rage-induced sort of
thing.
I
think you
maybe I'm being too loud.
Yeah, you need try to like hop in and hop out and hop back into the studio. Maybe that will reset whatever's going on. But but I mean, in the meantime, John, like I mean, Liz isn't concerned, which is fair. But I'm like, let's just gonna compare it to, because Superman is the big DC project right now. James Gunn finished filming that project a good year plus out from when the movie was gonna come out to give the movie enough time for post production. Now here is Marvel. Of course, they started filming Fantastic Four pretty much the same day that Superman wrapped, and it's releasing only 2 weeks after Superman, and it looks like now it's in post-production because they did wrap filming on Fantastic Four a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But clearly Marvel seems to not take as nearly as much time for post-production on their movies. Now, sans, of course, like James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy movies did have a timeline that sort of follows closely to what he's doing with Superman, hence, you know, it's his way of doing things. And he has kind of hinted that maybe, like, you know, Marvel isn't the best at it, and he has seen situations where, you know, we end up with an unfinished product in a movie theater. So he does not want that to be the case which is probably why, you know, he delayed the Batman Part 2, because Matt Reeves was like, oh, I'll finish the script in May. You'll start filming in August. We can make our date in October 2026. And he's like, no, we're going to move it a year so we can get this thing right. Not that the first movie had any problems with VFX. I don't think anybody criticized the Batman for bad VFX, but still. But when you look at all of that, when you look at the timeline, I feel like for a movie that's Avengers Doomsday, I mean, forget the fact that it's Avengers Doomsday and you're bringing back all these old characters and you're going to have a lot of new characters anyway, and you're building up to Secret Wars. It's an Avengers movie, period. The scale of this film with the amount of different superpowered characters, the amount of, like, every other shot in this movie is going to have some kind of VFX in it. Almost every shot in this movie will have some VFX. And some VFX will be, good, in terms of, well, not good, but like some VFX will be like relatively simple, straightforward. Some will be incredibly comprehensive, where you might have entire CGI characters in there. Do you really think, like, if the script isn't done yet? I mean, unless they've already mapped out a ton of this stuff, because I know Marvel sometimes previses entire action sequences ahead of time so that the VFX artists can get going on them early. But we know that Marvel is infamous for, like, doing a lot of late changes, and then, things get moved around and VFX artists suffer for it. What are your thoughts on the fact that, hey, if the script is done in March of 2025 and the movie is set to come out in May of 2026, that for a movie of this scale, a movie that's going to potentially make money that is in the same neighborhood as the Avatar movies that James Gunn famously takes, or infamously, depending on how you see it, like as much as 9 or 10 years to make each one. Do you think that's enough time for Avengers, Doomsday to go through production and post-production?
That's a bit problematic.
Yeah.
I know it's like, oh, they have 2 months. That's still a year and 3 months until a movie comes out. Doing an entire movie that is going to be visual effects heavy with a big ensemble cast, the movie I can guarantee, is going to look like garbage. This shit should have been done in 2024. Should have been done like by the end of 2024 at the latest. And then they should be starting production. Like, Supergirl is starting production, and that's coming out a month later.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Mm-hmm. And they haven't even finished the script yet for this movie. I'm just saying,
it's like, I just can't, like, outside of like the Snyder Bros, I can't see how anyone's thinking like, oh yeah, DC is gonna fucking crash and burn. It's just like, I just don't get it, because it's like, Supergirl starting production, it's coming out a month later, and these motherfuckers allegedly have not finished a fucking script yet. Like, again, this isn't the first Iron Man. That movie is a living miracle in terms of shooting without a script, and yet it somehow was successful and started a cinematic universe. It was miraculous. Yeah. And ironically, he's not here. But that, that became the movie it was. But they're like, okay, let's do that for every movie. It's like, no, can you write a script, spend a good amount of time on production, and then a good amount of time on post-production? Because James Gunn even said 2 years is like to really pre-production and post and doing all of that. 2-year commitment, and they're making it a year commitment. It's like, what?
It's. I mean, look, like I said earlier, though, grain of salt is coming from Daniel RPK, who doesn't always get it right.
It's true,
right?
Like, sometimes he will get it right, but the information might be outdated.
Like John said, they started Iron Man without a completed script. I have a feeling that's what they're doing with this as well, because, like I said, I'm almost dead positive that they're going from Fantastic Four and then connecting it back to this film. So they've already started shooting Fantastic Four shit. They're probably incorporating some of the Doomsday stuff in with those shoots so that they can connect. So I don't care. I don't care. Again, check with me in April. If they don't have the script, then fine. We'll be alarmed, but I don't care.
I would be alarmed now. I would be alarmed now.
So
it's sort of, the comparison makes it seem worse than maybe what it is, because Marvel Studios does have a different way of doing things. Like I said, sometimes they will have a lot of these big, like, the whole big final action, fight sequence in Avengers Endgame, that was pre-visualized well before they started actually working on the script and everything for that, because they kind of build these movies. It's almost like the Mission Impossible movies in some ways, where they're built around action set pieces, and so the script is really just there to connect the dots. And, given how phase 4 and 5 have gone, it seems like maybe that is the way that they're doing things anyway. So why not do that with the Avengers movie as well? Where it doesn't feel as cohesive of a story.
And it's, what it is they're not even gonna try, and people are gonna eat that shit up. That's what happened for Infinity War.
But at the end of the day,
the greatest movies ever, and they're like mid at best.
I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I want Avengers Doomsday to be a good movie. I want to enjoy it. I enjoyed Infinity War. I had a good time at Endgame. I don't think Endgame is the best Avengers movie. No way in hell it isn't. I think Infinity War is a lot better. I think the best Avengers movie is still the OG Avengers, and then Age of Ultron sort of gets better. It's like aging like fine wine in a way.
I'm gonna say Age of Ultron. That's my favorite.
But like, having said that, I'm not here to like hate on Marvel or Avengers. I'm just saying it's concerning when you hear that it's gonna. It's John is, but I'm just saying it's
just like it's just a nice dose of reality that these guys need from everybody from like sucking their dicks constantly. So
well, again, the only dose of reality they're gonna get is at the box office, right? So if it doesn't make the numbers, then sure, but it's gonna make the numbers, so they're just gonna keep doing what they're doing.
Well, as far as dose of reality is concerned, on a slightly more grim note, there's just a terrible tragedy happening right now in California with the wildfires that are wiping away not just many homes, but also it's killed a few people now. I think the last I checked there were 2 confirmed dead, and it's just never a good thing when you see that, of course. And even though these houses that are being burned down are like they belong to celebrities who have plenty of money and multiple homes and stuff, and so you're like, do they really like John was saying before the show started, like, boo hoo. I get that, but still, if you were forced out of your home and told like to leave, and then you saw on the news that it burned down and everything, all the memories and everything that you hold dear was in there, you would still feel just as bad. It doesn't matter how much money is in your bank account. So I do have sympathy for them in the sense that, hey, like in that headline it says it was so last minute that when they evacuated Malibu, and Mark Hamill's house is in the path of the fires. Jamie Lee Curtis's house as well. She might lose her home in the fire. It's a terrifying situation, as it would be for anybody. We have multiple people on our team. Allison, Catriona. I don't believe Catriona is currently in LA. So I checked with her. She's thankfully safe, I think, in Chicago. But we've got Angelina and Allison out in LA. So and I'm sure you guys might know some friends and family out there as well. It's never a good thing when you hear that something like this is going on. I did want to bring this up because this news, of course, and the events going on right now are right smack dab in the middle of now what is awards season. So of course, it's a big time of the year for Hollywood, and maybe not at the box office, but where the bigger movies start coming out more in springtime and summer months. But it's certainly a very active time of the season. But with these fires, it's just it's still, like I said, you would still feel for them, because you may not be able to relate to the the amount of money that they have in their bank account, but you can relate to the idea of, like, imagine if you lost your home in a wildfire, like how would you feel of all the valuables and the sentimentals that you had in there that just all of a sudden went up literally in smoke.
Right.
I mean, Liz, what are your thoughts on this? Again, just it's been a day full of just like more and more updates, and each time things seem to be more grim than the last.
Well, the latest numbers are 100,000 people were evacuated, so that's nothing to scoff at. And at the end of the day, like, yes, the majority of I wouldn't even say the majority, but yes, a good portion of the people there that are losing their homes are celebrities or people who are celebrity adjacent, but at the end of the day, they're human beings. So like, Mark Hamill, Jamie Lee Curtis, they've lived in those homes probably for 20 plus years. So you have to put it in perspective like that. Like, yes, they can afford to rebuild, but you're still talking about, decades and lifetimes spent building up these homes, creating these places for their families, and not to mention all of their neighbors who are not actors, who are not famous, who are, we hear from a handful of well-known names, but at the end of the day, it's human beings, it's lives, it's livelihoods, it's homes. So it definitely is tragic, and we see it year after year, especially in, with the fire season, whatever you want to call it, wildfire season. We saw it in the north last year. We're seeing it now in the LA area. It's just a fact of life these days, unfortunately. I mean, we saw it here on the East Coast as well. It's a shame. Again, I John and I were joking about it a little bit earlier too, like, oh no, my house, like, thank God I've got a place on the East Coast I can live, or a place in France that I can live. And it's true, they do. But still, at the end of the day, a lot of people are being displaced by this, and it's
I feel bad for more so the people that are down there that don't have anywhere else to go. And,
right. Because I
that,
mean,
as you were
you know,
saying,
yeah,
like,
we're talking LA. So LA, there's a bunch of writers, there's a bunch of, you know, ADs, there's a bunch of craft service people that all live in the same area that don't
remember,
make
we
that
got to
kind of
thank craft
money.
services.
100% thank craft services. But again, we're talking about people that are a part of the film industry and a part of that world that are not going to be able to recover. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's still a shitty situation. I personally, since they're pushing back the voting for the awards, particularly for the Academy Awards, I almost kind of think they might actually push the Academy Awards back as well, because I think 2 days is a little optimistic. I think they need to, they're probably going to end up pushing it back even further while people are still trying to figure out what's going on and maybe recoup their losses, or, you know, come to terms with what they've lost. So we'll see what happens with this. It's going to be a very fluid story, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of jumped ahead a little bit because we are going to get into that. But yeah, I mean, it's just terrible to see something like this going on because, like you said, John, for all the big celebrities like, you know, Mark Hamill and Jamie Lee Curtis you see on the screen, there's you know thousands, if not, you know, hundreds of thousands of other, you know, professionals in Hollywood who do not have the ability to just go to another home, who have, you know, just the one home that is now in the line of fire, literally. But yeah, we hope, and you know, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody out there, that if you were being evacuated, that you made it out safely, and if you are still in the area, that, you know, you're taking all the precautions, and of course follow all the instructions that you get from the local government and the emergency services. They're there to try to help you, and we hope that you are staying safe while you are in LA. With that in mind, like I mentioned earlier, there are, you know, awards, not nominees and nominations. Awards are being given out. Of course, the Golden Globes were just this past weekend. Now we are on the road to the Oscars, and today, Liz, as you just mentioned, they officially opened up the voting to the Oscar nominations. So this isn't to you know, vote on who's going to win each category. This is to vote on the short list to then determine the nominees for each award category. So we are coming into the year now where, for the first time, I feel like in several years, we really don't have a front runner. I mean, we know that, of course, like the DGA awards, and I think even at the Golden Globes, you have like movies like Wicked getting like 5 or 6 nominations, but it's not like, you know, like last year or the year before that, whenever the first Dune movie came out, where it had like 13 nominations, right? Like you always have like a movie or two that, or like Everything Everywhere All at Once, got like 8 or 9 different nominations. You just don't see a movie that's just dominating all the big categories this year. It's kind of spread across the board. So
yeah, well, because again, there's just so much content out there now, and now that we're also incorporating the streaming services, which I'm at a point now where I feel like we should have separate awards for that. We should have, you know, gone into movie theater awards, and then we should have the streaming awards, because it's just getting too inundated.
Yeah.
But
well, I think to qualify for an Oscar, you do need a certain amount of theater time,
viewership.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So you can't just be an exclusively streaming movie and qualify in the same category. That's why Netflix puts out some of their movies in like a LA and New York movie theater for a certain period of time, just to meet the minimum requirements. It started cheating the system a little bit, and they were raising the requirements in recent years. So I hope that they've gotten to a point where, you know, if Netflix is gonna go that far, then they actually just do a limited release for the movie at least. But nonetheless, as you were saying, it is a busy year in the sense that there's just a lot of different good movies, but none of them truly standing out as the big, you know, go-to for, you know, all the big categories. And now with that said, of course, the Oscar nominations aren't the only ones that dropped today. In recent days and weeks, we have seen the you know, different categories shortlist be announced. Of course, we saw the docs shortlist be announced, and a few, you know, big name documentaries were missing, like the Elton John documentary and the Celine Dion. And then for us with DCU Daily, the Christopher Reeve documentary from DC Studios, they were all snubbed from the Oscar shortlist. So forget the nominees; they're not even on the shortlist. So to me, that obviously it's a little surprising, because you would expect at least 1 or 2 of them to be there. Like all of them are supported by big streaming services. Like, of course, Max is behind the Christopher Reeve story. John, what are your thoughts on this? Do you feel like there's a pattern here?
Bullshit. Fucking bullshit. But I do remember reading somewhere that they are eligible for Best Picture. So, like, I don't know if like that's a thing. I don't know. I don't think that'll be the case. But I remember reading, like, I remember like seeing an article. Maybe it's bullshit. Maybe it's not. But like, oh, Christopher Reeve Superman story, or sorry, Superman Christopher Reeve story, and Joker Fola Edu are eligible for Best Picture. I'm like, I don't know how true that is. I hope it would be fucking hilarious to see Joker 2 get nominated, just to see everybody lose their I mean, to be fair, Godfather Part 3 got nominated for Best Picture. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes the Oscars are a little bit much, but I think that would just be so funny. So fucking funny. But yeah, it's still bullshit. I mean, I understand. I'm sure there's some great like there's a great one that my buddy watched about like the schooling system in like a different countries. Like it was a really hard watch, very well done documentary. So I'm sure there's gonna be great documentaries that are gonna get limelight where they wouldn't have got like I kind of view it like this, like everything joking aside. Superman the Christopher Reeve story was very, very lucky to get the limelight it did. Like DC Studios picking it up, it getting a limited release, it getting a national release, then going on a fancy streaming service that a lot of people have.
Right.
So Christopher Reeve's story got very, very lucky. I'm sure that the documentary movies that are going to get nominated didn't have that chance. They didn't get that chance and are only going to be known because they're nominated, and then people will watch them. So a lot of people have already seen Superman, and to be fair, Superman Christopher Reeve story doesn't need a little gold statue to know that it's a great film. There are so many great films out there that have never been nominated, that will never during its chance, but its legacy will be unmatched by, you know, with the amount of people that will praise it to no end about how like its stamp on pop culture and all that. Yeah. So we know that Superman and Christopher story is great. We don't need a little gold statue to tell us that. Would it have been nice, at least for a nomination? Sure. But I think there are other stories that are arguably more important that are going to get the limelight for a nomination that deserve it. Now, I'm not saying Christopher Reeve's impact on the world as, you know, his most popular character that he played, and then eventually his impact on disabled people aren't important. But I'm saying, like, it's important and we know that. But for most people, it was known. While these other stories that will get nominated might not have been as well known. Like it might have been like a kind of like oh my God, nobody knew this, so we're letting everybody know now. That kind of thing I'm kind of excited for in a documentary sense. So, you know, whatever is getting nominated, I'm sure it's gonna be well deserved. I hope so. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of things that are snubbed and don't deserve it and all that, but my optimism is they will get what they deserve in terms of the nominations. Am I a little sad? Sure. I don't actually think it's bullshit. I'm just trying to be funny. I'm gonna be serious now. I'm gonna be serious. So I mean, I'm excited to see what will get nominated, and those stories I'm sure are gonna be great. So whether it's hard to watch or genuinely exciting to watch, whatever those stories are.
And you know what? Like, it's not just the Oscar shortlist, right? We talked about the award season. The Oscars are like the main event, but you have so many, like Golden Globes kicks things off, and then there's so many other awards that happen between then and the Oscars. Now, one of them, of course, is the SAG Awards. Now, the SAG Awards released their 2025 television and film nominations. So now that we have them out, Wicked and Shogun lead the respective categories, each with 5 nods. Is that a surprise to you, Liz, at all? The fact that Shogun, which a lot of people thought was unanimously the best show of the year, and Wicked, which a lot of people think was one of the best movies of the year, they're the ones leading the pack here in the SAG nominees.
No, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, Shogun's going to take everything just like it did with the Golden Globes. Wicked's not going to get anything. As beautiful and exciting and as beloved as it was, it's just not an awards winning type of film. And I can say that as, I just saw The Last Showgirl tonight. Pamela Anderson may get nominated. She's not going to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, certain things you can kind of already tell ahead of time. So no, the noms aren't surprising to me. I'm surprised that Shogun got so few. Honestly, I would expect them to get even more, just based on all of the feedback that I've heard of this show since it first aired, and again, it doing so well at the Globes themselves. But that's what I'm gonna say is gonna happen. Is Shogun's gonna get the majority of their awards. Wicked's probably not gonna get anything at all. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, also like Margaret Qualley did not get nominated. She got snubbed essentially for The Substance, and she's been getting a lot
Yeah,
of
I was a little
nominations
surprised by
elsewhere.
that,
So
honestly.
I
Yeah.
that was
personally, I
surprising to
think
me.
Demi Moore gave a better performance than Margot. I'm not saying
Yeah.
Margot Qualley was bad, but I think what Demi was doing was much more important and more of like
Well, her
the
character
glue of the
had
movie.
not to I don't, for lack of a better term, her character had more substance. So
Yeah.
I didn't know how else
Yeah.
to phrase that, unfortunately. But yeah.
Yeah, no pun intended. But yes. All
Yeah.
right. So now, in addition to that, of course, the DGA, and so the SAG, of course, is the Screen Actors Guild. The DGA is the Directors Guild of America. So this is where, like, all the directors get to vote on their, best performances and awards of the year. We talked about it the other day that, of course, the Penguin has multiple nominations at the DGA Awards, and we, of course, have the Bear and Shogun in there as well. When you looked at this list of nominations for the DGA, where, I mean, every time I think about the DGA, it reminds me of how, Ben Affleck won his, Best Director award at the DGA Awards that year for Argo. And then somehow, even though the movie was nominated for Best Film, he was snubbed from the Oscar for the Best Director. But, it's interesting because the DGA, a lot of the same people who vote on the Oscars Best Director category, they're in the Academy, are the same people who were part of the DGA. So it didn't make any sense to me. But anyway, as far as the DGA Awards nominees for this past year goes, Shogun, the Bear, and the Penguin, they all lead with 3 nominations each. Does that surprise you guys? Because I know a lot of people weren't the biggest fans of the latest season of the Bear, but of course, Shogun and the Penguin were the 2 biggest shows of the year. So is there a surprise there? Do you feel like
Definitely
they should have
not for
gotten more
Shogun.
nominations?
I think the Penguin's kind of surprising again because it's like it's a comic book thing, it's a superhero thing, so it's a little surprising. But the Bear, yeah, people were left mixed on the latest season, but it still got enough it still got enough people where it was like, yeah, this was still good. It's been good. I feel like I'm one of the outliers that thought that the latest season wasn't that great, so that's not surprising to me that the Bear is getting nominated and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, you got the usual suspects, like, you have Abbott Elementary, you've got, Hacks, of course, the Bear, and, getting nominated in the comedy category, which still I don't get it. But anyway, Curb Your Enthusiasm, movies for television and limited series, of course, is where the Penguin lives. Disclaimer on Apple TV Plus, Alfonso Cuarón.
I heard Disclaimer was really fucking good.
Yeah, that's same thing here. I mean, the Penguin has 3 nominations in the best, in the movies for television and limited series category. So I'm like, it's got a pretty good chance of at least picking up something there. And then when you get into the variety talk show, I mean, this list is so long. We're not gonna get through all of it, but of course you've got all the late shows, the Real Time with Bill Maher. You've got Late Show with Stephen Colbert. You got the Daily Show in there, which, of course, that show has taken quite a few turns in the last couple of years. Saturday Night Live, which, I mean, that SNL movie isn't really getting a ton of attention in the movie section, but of course SNL, the show itself, is. Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, I hope that wins it. I actually really enjoyed the India elections episode. It was very informational. Some of the stuff I knew from before, just from a personal experience, but it was still very informational. And I think John Oliver is probably the most deserving, in my opinion, there. Of course, the Oscars themselves get nominated in the variety show specials category. The Roast of Tom Brady. I enjoyed watching that. Netflix is still coming off the high from that. Oh my God, when Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were on the stage together, you could cut the tension, like a knife through butter. It was so good. So I can't believe. I mean, I don't know how much money they paid Bill Belichick to be there that night. The Tony Awards are in the list. Single lady. All right. So those were the DGA nominations. Now I did want to quickly go through a little more of just that was the television side, a little more on the movie side. There were a few surprises here because James Mangold, for A Complete Unknown, and Edward Berger, they got in, but Denis Villeneuve for the Dune, 2, and John M. Chu for Wicked got snubbed. Are you surprised that Denis Villeneuve and John M. Chu got snubbed at the DGA Awards? Like, how does that happen?
Seems like two-part movies they don't like, whether it's the first part or the second part. Anything that was split into
that's
book that was split
commonality.
into two parts, they didn't like.
Yeah.
Maybe they have something against parts.
Nothing else makes sense, honestly, especially when you consider, the director for Barbie got nominated. So why wouldn't John M. Chu get it? Is the same kind of outlandish, fantastical, crazy set design, crazy direction. Like, that's a real surprise.
I'm
considering
just curious how Jacques Audiard has got nominated for Emilia Perez.
They point out here in the article.
But again, if you see that movie, John, you'll understand.
I know,
that
I'm
movie
just
is
joking.
unbelievable.
I'm just going off of I'm very narrow. I've just seen all my friends watched it. They said it was like okay, very overrated, and then
I don't find it overrated at all. It's one of the most original stories I've seen in a long time.
I've seen some trans people having a bit of a problem with the film, but that's neither here nor there.
And that's fine. No, and that's fine. But just talking about director, like I'm
sure they did a good job.
I would see one of them replace Sean Baker on that list. Like, I don't know that Sean Baker, that Nora's direction was anything.
Edward Berger definitely deserves it for Conclave.
Yes,
that
100%.
was an immaculately
100%
directed film. I haven't seen Brutalist yet, and I don't plan on seeing A Complete Unknown, but I know Conclave definitely deserves to be on there. And I'm saying that as someone who did not like All Quiet on the Western Front as much as other people did. So
I did not care for that at all. Absolutely.
I feel like it was a betrayal of the book, but that's what I think.
These are all first-time nominees in that category. That's like something they pointed out. It's like an interesting coincidence, I suppose, where none of these directors have been on that list before. How long has the DGA
Awards been around? I've never really heard of it until now.
I think they mentioned this might be like the 50 something. We can find that out.
Yeah, I don't know that it's ever really been like broadcast or talked about.
I guess so. Before. Like maybe they're just like really, hey.
No. Actually, okay, it's the 77th. I apologize.
Damn.
It's the 77th.
But again, I don't know that it's ever really been broadcast on a large scale.
No. Well, it's not really meant to be. I mean, these are like this. I think the SAG Awards do get No, you know what? I take that back. I do believe the DGA Awards get broadcast. I don't know if it's one of the big networks or if it's a cable network. I know that the SAG Awards do also have like a television,
the SAG Awards get broadcast. Yeah.
I would watch a DGA Awards. I think that the reason why they maybe don't do it is because I don't think the average audience, will really know as much. It's a lot more inside baseball, the way the DGA works. Especially the way the awards are formatted versus, what you see with SAG. Especially because, it's SAG. I mean, like, Screen Actors Guild, it's actors. Like, people know the actors. But for half the movies you go to see in a movie theater, I know we know all the directors because we are talking about them all the time. But you go to the average person on the street who went to see A Complete Unknown and you say, James Mangold directed this. You know him, right? And they were like, no clue. Just... I like the movie.
But you're not not voting on the name, you're voting on the direction of the film.
I know, I'm just saying, but I'm saying most people
you would say, hey, should the director be nominated? They'll tell you yes or no, whether the name's got nothing to do with it at this point.
Yeah. I'm just saying that I think it makes sense that they don't broadcast the show. I think they do. I don't think it's on any of the big networks, but I think it's because the fact that it's more inside baseball for the average viewer than like the SAGs where you can get into it, like, all right, you're watching the SAG Awards, you're seeing your favorite actors, you're rooting for a movie, for the ensemble cast award and stuff like that. But with that said, of course, we started off this part of the news segment by talking about the wildfires in LA and how it's, many celebrities have lost their homes, and thousands of other, regular people like us also are in the line of fire who are being evacuated, and hopefully they are, being, taken to safety, or if they're, able to come back hopefully in the future and their houses are still there for them. I mean, certainly if you are evacuating, hopefully they're able to, take their, their belongings and everything and sentimentals with them, because the way this thing is, it's like every hour today I was getting headlines about like, oh, a new fire started, like something else happened here, something else happened there. I literally have friends and family and like people on our team at Also Curious who are out there, so wishing everybody out there the very, very best. But as a result of that, obviously changes have to happen to the schedule out in Hollywood for things like voting for the Oscars. So we started off talking about how, yes, today was the first day, or was the first day to vote on the Oscar nominations, taken from the short list of like dozens of movies and turn them into a list of like 5 to 10 for the different nominees. And that has a certain, limited period of time that people can do that within to submit their ballots. And that time period has now been extended. Essentially, it's been pushed to January 19th, and voting has been extended 2 days due to the LA fire. And Liz, you mentioned earlier that you probably see this going well beyond just the extension on voting for the nominations, that it might get all the way to the point where the Oscars themselves are sort of delayed. Of course, in the not too distant past, we had the COVID pandemic, which practically canceled the Oscars, I believe, the one year, and then the next year they were doing them without any audience in the venue. It didn't even do it at the traditional venue. So we have seen disruptions like that now, where the idea of the Oscars being delayed seems less novel than it would have like 5 or 6 years ago. But it's still, do you feel like this will cause the delays to kind of trickle down far enough that they will need to move the entire show?
I mean, again, as of today, as of time of recording, 100,000 people have been evacuated, but the fires are not contained. Right. So they're going to continue to spread. They're probably going to be evacuating more people. There's going to be a major recovery effort once those fires are contained. So I can only see them. I mean, they're being proactive now, and that's great, and they're giving people time. But I really don't expect things to run at the timeline that they were hoping they would, just because life happens. So I would think realistically, especially if they come back and they say, oh, we're going to push the nominations back further. I think if you see that, then it's more than likely they're going to push the awards show back as well. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, a few steps here, because, of course, if the nominations get pushed by a couple of days, I think that's still manageable. But like you said, the fire's not contained, so if it continues to cause more delays, then yes, eventually that will probably end up trickling down to the award show needing to be moved as well. So, of course, the safety of the people out in LA is what matters first and foremost. Award shows can happen at a later time in the year. You can vote on things later in the year. If as long as you're around and you're healthy and safe, that's what matters first and foremost. So we're again wishing the very best to anybody who's out there in the LA region, especially if you're affected by the evacuation orders. Please follow the directions from the emergency personnel and your local government officials, so that way what the best course of action for you is, depending on where you are located. Now, with that said, that will bring to close the news section. But of course, as we have been doing in recent times, we still have other news to talk about. We're just going to do it in quick hit style. So I'm going to hit the music, and we're going to get the ball rolling on this, shall we? So welcome on into Quick Hits. Exactly like John said. So first topic on Quick Hits. Tom Holland is set to star in John Grisham's legal thriller, The Partner, for Universal. Thoughts?
Great. Cool. I hope it's good like Devil All the Time and not shitty like Cherry. Proud
Make that money, Tom. Go, Tom.
Nice. All right. Okay. Well, moving on. So, Ghost of Tsushima. We talked about this the other day, but the fact that it's happening over at Sony is going to be on Crunchyroll. But there was some news today that I came across, and it said that this anime is being made by Kamikaze Douga, and they are the ones who created the Star Wars Visions episode, The Duel, which everybody loved, and it's releasing in 2027. Thoughts?
That's exciting for the anime. I don't give a flying fuck about Star Wars, but way to go, Kamikaze Douga, getting that money, and I hope you create a good IP for the fans of Ghost of Tsushima, because it's a good one. So, very exciting.
I know nothing about any of this, so good luck, gang.
Cool. Well, I think, Liz, you know a little bit about this because it's your favorite actor, or one of your favorite actors, Joe Manganiello. He's still processing how Deal or No Deal Island will end, and he said what happened is impossible. People were losing their minds.
Yep.
Does that make you any more interested in watching Deal or No Deal Island?
Yes. This stupid article has now made me desire to see this stupid show. So now I have to go see the first season to understand what the hell it's all about. And now I got to watch the second season. Thanks, Joe.
I don't give a flying fuck about Deal or No Deal, even if it's hosted by Deathstroke. Because, if I want to watch Joe Manganiello, I'll watch something else. Maybe Magic Mike. Probably not.
Watch True Blood again. True Blood's
I'm not watching True Blood, so...
Okay.
All right. Well, moving right along. Carry On. Speaking of moving it right along, Carry On enters Netflix's top 5 most viewed movies of all time, and the director, Jean Collet-Serra, says that there's no talks yet for a sequel. I actually watched this movie a few days ago for my birthday weekend, and I fell asleep once. Maybe it was because I'm tired, maybe because the movie was a little slow. It does pick up, and then, the third act is very much like the 90s Bruce Willis Die Hard logic. So it's a movie that probably would have been a hit if it was in the theaters in the 90s, but I think for 2025, it's perfectly fine on Netflix, and maybe they can do a sequel. What do you guys think? Have you seen it yet? Are you excited to see it?
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. I love Jason Bateman. A dream of mine is to one day meet him and have him call me pal. So I'm excited about it. I don't care what Fiona says, even though I love you, girl, but you and I never agree on these things. So can't wait to catch it.
I have no intention of ever watching this movie, but Jean Collet-Serra is a very good action director. I do like Taron Egerton and Jason Bateman. I don't really give a flying fuck about this movie because it looks like Die Hard 2, but worse. So, oopsie daisy. If it gets a sequel, cool. I'm not watching that either. Awesome.
Nice. You know what? Speaking of movies and streaming, there's a TV series. Holes is getting picked up to series, basically picked up to pilot by Disney Plus. So, have you heard of Holes? Is this something that interests you? The first time I heard about it was the headline, and I was like, looks interesting. Let's talk about it. What do you guys think?
This is totally really? This is totally your generation. I'm shocked.
No, I never came across
it. The movie is Kino Cinema. This will probably be dog shit. So I'm not gonna watch it.
I never read the book. I never saw the film. It wasn't my generation, but good for them. I hope it's great. I
reread the book
amazing.
and I rewatched the movie recently for a video on my channel, and both are still amazing to this day. It doesn't need a remake, and I don't really care. It's also not a book that warrants a TV series. It's not Dune. It's not The Shining. I don't know why.
It does make me want to watch the film, though. I will see the film finally.
Out of all the things that should be getting a TV show remake, it should be it. Have you seen the size of that thing? That should be like 3 seasons tops. But whatever. I'm not gonna watch it.
To the unsuspecting audience out there, they might be getting a remake of The Dark Knight, or are they? Because Armie Hammer is now set to lead a movie called The Dark Knight, directed by Uwe Boll. It's a vigilante thriller where a vigilante is fighting crime, except it's not Batman and it's not associated with DC. What do you think about Armie Hammer playing a Dark Knight? In The Dark Knight?
I thought we canceled him, so I don't care.
Also not gonna watch because Uwe Boll is arguably the worst director who has ever made a film ever, and Armie Hammer...
What has he made, John?
Some of the worst video game adaptations ever.
Okay.
Like Blood Rain, Postal, Alone in the Dark, House of the Dead, Rampage. Any of these ringing a bell? Well, that's a good reason if they're not. And Armie Hammer is and not the one with Dwayne Johnson, different Rampage.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, Army Hammer, he can go eat his people in his own time. I'm not watching this shit.
He's going to be fighting an army of criminals, hammering them till they're dead, and then eating them for scraps. That's probably what's going to be on the poster. But until then, we can look forward to Alan Ritson, another one of the favorites for Lizz. Alan Ritson is going undercover and finding himself in some big trouble in the new trailer for Reacher Season 3. Lizz, I don't know if you've seen Reacher Season 1 and 2, but you certainly saw the new trailer.
Nope.
And Alan Ritson is one of your favorite actors. What did you think?
One of my favorites. The trailer looks great, and I might start watching the show if I didn't have 500 other things to watch. But I love you, Alan, and I want you to be Batman one day, and I'd also like you to come to Comic-Con. I will pay any amount of money, sir.
John?
I watched the first 2 seasons with my dad. I was gonna watch season 3 anyway. I'm glad that it's not mainly about the special ops stuff, because I didn't really like that with season 2. So I just like the idea of Jack Reacher being the modern man with no name and just going into town, finding something to, deal with, and then he deals with it. I like that. This goes more along those lines, but it still has like the official kind of, oh, we have to bring in government shit. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. But I like what I saw. I like bigger guy. I liked, we saw Alan Ritson with his shirt off. So that's pretty good.
You sure did, John.
But this looks great. This, I'm excited. I like, even though I don't want Alan Ritson for Batman, I think he's great as Jack Reacher. So good for him. I would fuck Josh Allen. But Haley Steinfeld has that covered.
And good for her.
Cool.
Good for her.
And you know what? We're gonna wrap up quick hits.
Anyway,
we're gonna wrap up quick hits with the celebrating very quickly here. Then what would have been the 90th birthday of the king of rock and roll, Mr. Elvis Presley himself. Any of these movies of his? Have you guys seen them? Jailhouse Rock,
I have not
Speedway?
seen a single movie of his, but I listened to a lot of his music, and he's still the king for a reason. So even though he died on a toilet seat, but
sure did.
Gotta
4
love
pounds
it.
compacted in his intestine. What are you gonna do? Gang, balanced diet, very important in life. I've also never seen
Although
any
I
of
will
his
say,
films,
I
but I do
have
love
had
his
his
music.
peanut butter banana sandwiches, and they're pretty fire. Like,
were they fried though? They're supposed to be fried with bacon. But anyway,
I didn't have them with bacon, but I did have them fried, and I had topped with honey. Good stuff.
There you go. But again, gang, something to think about: the fact that Dick Van Dyke is still older than Elvis Presley would have been.
I don't understand.
That blows my mind.
That doesn't blow my mind. I always envisioned Dick Van Dyke as older than Elvis Presley.
I cannot compute
I don't know
that
why that's
Elvis
surprising.
would have only been 90. Like, that's really.
I'm like,
banana
dude,
grams.
Dick Van Dyke has been old as long as I've been alive. Like, that's, you know what I mean?
He's been our grandpa for a long, long time.
But you know what? Elvis Presley no longer with us, but it would have been his 90th birthday. And even though Dick Van Dyke is still around, he certainly was not the king of rock and roll Elvis was. So happy birthday to Elvis. I think they're doing some kind of special.
Dick Van Dyke is the king of terrible Cockney accents.
But bless him, he tried.
He probably did a better job than Lin-Manuel Miranda in Mary Poppins Returns.
He certainly does a better job than Mark Wahlberg. This is the first time he's ever tried a damn accent.
No, dude, that fucking accent is so terrible. It's so bad. That first time I saw that trailer,
I can't wait to watch.
But watch the trailer again, because he's pretending to, he's faking an accent in it, and then his character goes back to him being from Boston. Because
I know exactly. It's like they probably started off the movie being like he's gonna commit to this.
He's the guy doing his other job. And you must be his job.
You must be the other guy. Yeah, exactly. But you know what happened in that movie? They started out filming and Mark Wahlberg committing to the idea of the accent. Then halfway through the movie, the director realized Mark Wahlberg can't do an accent. So he just decided to change up the story and be like, you know what? You were from Boston the whole time. That's how we're going to do this. Even though this is based on real life events, we're just going to go with it. Whatever. But anyway, that was, of course, the quick hits. Graceland, I believe, is doing something special for Elvis's birthday. So if you are a big fan of Elvis, maybe you can take part in that. But that brings to a close the quick hits. And with that said, I believe now it's time for us to move on and talk about a movie of the week. So let's do that, shall we? So welcome on in to another episode of Movie of the Week. I do not have a graphic for that today, but we are talking about Wallace and Gromit today. Wallace and Gromit is a movie that, of course, they come out with one like every 5 or 6 years. We wait for it very patiently. They're usually amazing. We love them. You love them, I'm sure. And now the latest one, Vengeance Most Foul. I almost said it's Vengeance Be Foul, which maybe Vengeance is foul. But Vengeance Most Foul. That's the name of the new Wallace and Gromit movie. Are you guys excited about it? Have you seen it yet? I have not had a chance to really stream it yet. I'm waiting to watch it with a certain special someone, but maybe later this weekend. What about you guys? I'll start with you, Liz. Did you see the movie? Did you enjoy it?
Sure
did. You like
did.
it?
I'm looking forward to hearing you falling asleep again while watching a film because you're just so busy. But it's super cute, super creative. I love Wallace and Gromit. They'll always hold a special place in my heart. This does not disappoint. It's the classic Wallace and Gromit that you expect, and it's adorable. So go watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, John, what did you think about Wallace and Gromit? Did you enjoy it?
I thought it was really fun. I thought like the message was a little weird. How it was like embrace technology when it's. I feel like most films and movies, whatever, and TV shows are trying to stray away from that. So it's interesting how like Gromit is like throughout the whole thing is like I hate technology, I hate the Norbots, but like by the end it's like glad you're embracing technology, Gromit. So it's like that's a weird message. It's an interesting message. Like, I mean, sure. But I think like maybe they're trying to do like a balance sort of thing of like technology and not. I loved, Feathers McGraw in this. Fucking great. I will say one of the biggest laughs from me, it's like it was the boat chase scene at the end where it was the nun gag that made me laugh out loud. Like I that was genuinely really funny. But most of it was like not like oh my god, ha 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 ha, really funny. But like again, it's like Wallace and Gromit is just like it's just a British institution at this point. Not my favorite British institution, as we all know. But it's just like Wallace and Gromit is just one of those things you can't help but love. Like, I genuinely would not trust anyone who doesn't like Wallace and Gromit. Like, that's like, it's just so endlessly adorable and wholesome and likable that you can't. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I think, like, it kind of feels like to me, it's like about 80 minutes long, but it definitely feels like an elongated short than a movie, I will say that's probably the biggest flaw for me. Like, I felt that the pacing was off because of that. Like, in terms of movies, like big movies, I think Curse of the Were-Rabbit is better because I mean that was by DreamWorks. It was bigger, more lavish, more cinematic. Even though it was still by Aardman, it was produced by DreamWorks. So, and it did get one of the few times Disney / Pixar did not win Best Animated Feature. So, I really liked a lot of aspects of this. And I think it's really fun. I prefer Curse of the Were-Rabbit a bit more. That Curse of the Were-Rabbit is one of those things where it's like, oh, I thought this was a dumb thing I liked as a kid, but I was watching clips of it before this came out, and there was like, and I'm remembering a lot of stuff from that movie, and I'm like, it's so funny. It's so funny. And it's one of those cases where it's yes, I agree. How do you feel about Wallace and Gromit? Never watched it. Okay, well off you go.
Out.
But I mean the guy who replaced the original voice actor for Wallace did a very good job. I mean the animation still looks great, and I thought Norbot was cute, but like also like perfectly evil. And then Feathers McGraw is great, just the silent, like just menace. How do you fucking make a penguin look so goddamn menacing? Just brilliant. And he's barely in the movie. I really liked that. I'm like, I was watching it and I'm like, this is what Lex Luthor should be. Just a guy who can do everything from a jail cell and pretty much get away with it. that was just awesome. And I liked Mukherjee. I thought she was, oh my god, she was great. I love that character. And plenty of laughs, plenty of fun. It's it's Wallace and Gromit. Like anybody who knows Wallace and Gromit, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. It's just perfectly, it's not like perfect, but it is perfect, like I don't know if I'm making sense with that, but it's perfectly Wallace and Gromit. And I got what I wanted from out of this movie, and I really enjoyed it.
I mean, what did you think, Liz?
Super cute, super cute. Well, like I said, it's super cute. It's classic Wallace and Gromit. I just love how creative they always get with the inventions, and you never know where the story is going to go. And I really enjoyed it. It just brings back that nostalgia that warms your heart. It's like when I watch Paddington, I feel the exact same way.
Exactly. That's another British institution kind of thing.
There's another one coming.
I need to binge the Paddington movies before Paddington in Peru, because I definitely want to watch
sweet.
that.
I can't wait. They're great.
I mean, it's fucking Pedro Pascal's character in fucking Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, like Nick Cage, like, I don't know how you identify like the greatest movie of all time. You gotta think
the greatest movie trilogy of all time.
So what would you think is the greatest movie of all time?
It will be
Paddington 2.
Paddington 2.
Like that was like one of the best gags in that movie. But yeah, that's just because I love, that's like, again, kind of like a Superman story where it's like not exactly that, but a character that's perfect, but because of his perfection, like the people around him develop and grow. There's a name for that type of arc. I forget what there's a name for it. Again, it's been a while since I went to college, so I don't remember the exact name for it, but there's like different arcs you can go on, the reverse arc, the call to adventure, like a whole different types of things. But there's the perfection arc where you recognize that the main character is perfect. It's not like, oh, this person's imperfect, but they actually act perfect, like, like Rey in the new Star Wars movies. So where it's like, oh, it's a Gary Stu or a Mary Sue, where it's like they act like they're not perfect, but they're actually really perfect. This character is more like they're just kind of like Forrest Gump is another good one, where it's just like they kind of just fall into everything, but like everything works out for them. But it's the people around them that it's the people, honka Caleb. It's the people around them that grow from them, and like deserving. Definitely deserving. It has a higher tomato score than Better Man. Go fuck you, monkey. Anyway, but yeah, I think it's just perfectly, Wallace and Gromit and Paddington, it kind of has that vibe. So yes, thank you, the watcher. But yeah, very, very brill. Very brill.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's as British as anything gets. The movie did get an early release in the UK, as a lot of movies that have like just British roots. Like it's a British franchise. Like I remember back in the day when they were making Mr. Bean movies, they would come out in the UK before they came out in the US. And similarly, Wallace and Gromit: Avengers Most Foul was released by I think it's Universal making it. They put it out in theaters in the UK around Christmas time, and then a few weeks later it shows up on Netflix. Now you can watch it on Netflix pretty much across the world. And for those of us in the US, it's time now that we can get into the movie. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, I haven't seen it yet myself, but when you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, 100%. It's perfect score with over 100 reviews, and the audience rating is 94. It's amazing. I mean, it's a movie on Netflix. I mean, Netflix getting their hands on this one, it's fantastic for them. And also, there were rumors that this might be the last Wallace and Gromit movie. I mean, Johnny, do you think this is indeed the last one that we're gonna get?
No, I thought it was going to be, but Aardman clarified that they found clay, and then they'll find like another like supplier of the clay that they use.
Okay.
Which is another thing like to point out. Claymation, stop motion, always like no matter how bad the movie is, like stop motion, like that'll always get me. That'll like even if I don't love the movie, like some of the Leica films, not great, like Box Trolls and Missing Link. Not amazing movies, but it's like the fact that it's stop motion and claymation and all that, whatever you want to call it. It's that's always very it's kind of speaks to me like just how much passion and work went into the film of like doing that by hand, doing it in the traditional way. I think that's very special, and I really like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, Liz, from your perspective, do you think this is a franchise that can, I don't know, keep on going just pretty much forever? It's also like, because they're claymation movies, you're making something that's claymation for a feature length, story. It takes them 5 or 6 years. I mean, how many more do you think they've got in them? Like, it's not like a big studio that's got thousands of people working on this. Do you expect there to be more theatrical versions? Do you think eventually they're just going to replace? Because really the magic is in the claymation, but do you think they're going to ever replace it with like something that looks like claymation but is really just animated?
I mean, I can see the technology going that way. Of course, it's up to the discretion of the creators if they want to do that or if they want to continue making these films the way they have been. Before I saw that Rotten Tomatoes score, I thought maybe they were kind of falling off and out of favor. But I mean, again, these just hold so much nostalgia for people that anytime there is a new iteration, people are going to want to just go check it out, and because they just make you feel good. There's never a bad time when you're sitting down in front of a Wallace and Gromit flick. So I hope that they continue on. I don't know how much longer they will, but I hope they do for just for a little bit longer. I'm not ready to say goodbye just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, this is the first one that we've gotten like a good 6 or 7 years, right? So, I mean, if they can keep up with it, why not, get more? Of course, we've now got Caleb and Antonio in the chat, so hello, you guys have joined just in time. We do still have DCU Daily to get through, so we will definitely be getting into that soon. I would just, finish off the review by asking you guys, having seen the movie, do you guys recommend it? I mean, the Watcher saying ditch the Oscars, stay home and watch Wallace and Gromit. I mean, But by the way, John, we got Hugo Millie in the chat. You could say hello if you want to smolder. We'll let you smolder for a little bit.
How you doing? Getting some double stroking action. There it is. Unfortunately, I cut my beard, so it's not quite as long, but I hope it's good for you as it is for me. In the words of Eric Andre, acting like Hannibal Buress, I'm a sex symbol. Anyway, speaking of sex symbol, Wallace, everybody. I also love how, like, when they were going through their bills, they just have Wallace. There's no last name.
Yeah,
that was another that got a good laugh out of me too.
There it is.
We're just adding to this, like, guys. We're gonna make like a book, like a little pocket book of the great wisdom of the wisdom of the great John, and then you can just get all these quotes in there. Like, they'll be like, you flip a page, and in the center in small text will be like double stroking action. They'll just look like little quotes that you can then just use in your day-to-day life, because of course it's wisdom from the great John. That's for the shop whenever we do launch that. Fiona saying Wallace, unlimited British sex symbol, ultimate British sex symbol.
Him and Colin Baker are the pinnacle of British sex symbols.
Yep.
Just saying. So
I mean, like you said, the penguin's pretty badass in this, and
I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about.
No,
Colin
I knew you.
Farrell
I knew you
for a
were talking about Colin Farrell. No. I knew you were talking about. No, I'm talking about Feathers McGraw here. He's got a little smolder action going on to him too. Gets a lot done without many words. So
cheese, Gromit. Anyway.
Jeez, Gromit. I love it. Love it. The Watcher, by the way, you might have scared the Watcher, John, with all that beard stroking. Anyway, the Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. You can see it on Netflix now. It is available wherever you are. I believe it is available on Netflix pretty much everywhere around the world. But Ron, let us know if it's not available to you in Canada. Then we will try to find it for you elsewhere. But in the meantime, of course, both Liz and John do recommend it. You don't even have to go to a movie theater to watch it. So let us know in the comments if you liked Wallace and Gromit, having now heard the reviews.
2 thumbs up, guys.
2 thumbs up. Double stroking action, as John said. So, and why don't you just grab yourself a little bit of cheese and sit by the warmth of some not. Okay, I was gonna say warmth of a fire, but in light of events in LA, let's not say that. But maybe just grab yourself, a little chunk of cheese and maybe a glass of milk, and then sit by, your loved ones, your friends and family, and check out Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. We don't get these many, very often. They come out every 5-6 years because it takes so long to make. But you know what? When they do put them out, they're fantastic. So we hope that you enjoy the movie. And if you did, then let us know in the comments down below and hit that like button while you're at it. So that way we know that you did enjoy it and we can get this review out in front of more people who can hopefully then go and check out the movie as well. In the meantime, we're going to switch gears here because, of course, it is time. Thank you, John. Thank you. That very much appreciated. Cool. He has modified the quote. There we go. Cool. We're working on that little, pocketbook for John. But in the meantime, welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. Of course, we are here, and we have got lots to talk about from the world of DC. I did say that. And you know what? I will stand by that statement. It's totally fine. I mean, it lacks a little bit of context, but cool. Of course, we do today have to talk about Superman, as we always do. Superman is always on the news marquee ticker, whatever you want to call it. We do have to also talk about Batman, the world's finest. Are we going to get Robert Pattinson in the DCU? Andy Muschietti had something to say about that. Of course, he's the director of the DCU Batman movie. But to start things off, I'm going to bring in, of course, not only John today, but we also have Liz. So Liz, talking about Superman, talking about Batman, as somebody who tends to usually lean more on the side of Marvel, just how excited are you about Superman at this point?
No. I'm still Marvel to the core.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying more often than not, if you had to pick, you would pick Marvel, which is fair. Yes. But I'm just saying, like, Superman is a movie that is set to come out in less than 6 months' time now.
Yeah.
Or actually, was it like 6.5 months? That's just 6.5 months. With that said, is the marketing doing it for you? Because like the IMAX trailer now is available to see on YouTube.
And John and I were discussing this before the show. Superman is my favorite superhero. He's the thing that got me into the fandom. Christopher Reeves for the rest of my life. I'm a Christopher Reeves stan. But I even like the old original Superman TV show back in black and white. I grew up with that as well. So Superman is my jam. But yeah, the more I'm seeing, the more clips, even just going through a couple of the articles, they'll show little snippets of the trailer here and there. And I'm so excited. There was one article where they just had a quick little gif of Lex Luthor, and Nicholas Hoult looks sick as shit with the glasses. He looks like a total boss. Yep. So yeah, dude, I'm real friggin' pumped for this. I'm really looking forward to it. I will see it. I'm hoping I can see it multiple times. That would be a first for a DC film for me. That's for damn sure. So we'll see what happens. But I can't wait. It's killing me that we have to wait 6.5 months though. It's killing me.
John, we might be converting Liz to a DC fan here.
No, she's not. You missed this conversation. That's not happening.
A fan, yes, but Marvel will always be number one in my heart.
Cool. Hunter Iggy's like John 3:16, double stroke pains and robbed my ball. Okay, I'm not gonna finish that comment.
I appreciate it.
Fiona thing, and now RuPaul's Drag Race is back, season 17. Discuss. Oh yes, no, you know what? We will do that next time, Fiona. But good shout there. Okay, DC stuff instead. Yes, we gotta get to the DC stuff. That's what we're here. That's what a lot of you guys are here for anyway. So, with that in mind, of course, we have 5-ash art in the.
Fiona, you need to start your own channel discussing RuPaul's Drag Race. I think.
I'll join you. I'll talk about it. I enjoy watching it. Hugo Millie suggesting Jodie Comer and Jennifer Sparks.
RPDR Daily. There it is.
There you go. RuPaul's Drag Race Daily. Yep. I'm sure we can.
A little bit of an awkward title, but it'll work.
Yeah,
it's a working title. It's a working title.
It rolls off the tongue, It totally rolls off the tongue. I mean, look, even 5-ish Art, who isn't usually a fan of James Gunn movies, he loves the trailer for Superman. Now, of course, as I was mentioning
he's not
earlier,
a Snyder cultist that's gonna be like, it's gonna suck because Daddy Snyder isn't doing it anymore.
really don't get that. I really don't get these people.
Well,
really don't.
look,
Oh
as
my
I was
God, that woo!
as I
Come
was mentioning,
along.
just to kind
They're
of give
like
a little set
aviators, but like not aviators. They look cool.
Yeah,
I
those
think they're
are
like
rich people
they're kind of
aviators.
like
Those are
Those-
Edith
billionators.
glasses. I think that's like it's like like Google Glass, like that kind of thing. I think
Ugh.
they might be like super glasses, like smart
Good
glasses.
gravy. Look at
I
that.
like assuming because
Dang.
it's Lex Luthor, so
Come on, look at that.
I was just gonna set the stage a
If
little
that
bit.
doesn't get butts in seats, there's no hope for this film. I mean, look at that shot. Gorge.
Yep, we're just vibing to the anyway. So this shot is from the IMAX version of the trailer for the movie. So when the trailer when the Superman trailer dropped a few weeks ago, we were like, we've got obviously our first look at Lex Luthor and all the different characters, but this particular shot, as well as a couple of other shots, those shots were in the in the theatrical trailer, meaning that like the one that you get if you went to an IMAX screening.
Trailer. Yeah.
Like the Dolby screening, you would see it. And it was weird because they just chose to like drop these like two tiny shots that, and when I say tiny, I mean like they're not very long in terms of the runtime. They just like had those shots in the theatrical version of the trailer. So that way if you saw the trailer in the movie theater, you got something a little bit, different and extra than what you got if you were watching it, on YouTube or wherever else you found it. Now, because for the longest time, that trailer you can only see in a movie theater. Now it's been a few weeks. Sonic and Mufasa have been in movie theaters for a few weeks, and those are the movies behind which the trailer debuted. So now they've put the IMAX trailer online, and as you can see here in the shot, John, not only do we have Lex Luthor looking cool as hell, or cool as ice, you have the engineer to the left of him, that's played by Maria Gabriela de Faria.
To the left,
to the right,
Ultraman's to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Anyway.
What are your thoughts on just seeing these characters in action? We did get a sneak peek at this before, but I mean now we get to see it in high definition.
Shot of it. So
yeah,
it looked cool then, even with the and we did theorize that maybe they're going into the Fortress of Solitude here. That like they're doing kind of like in the first Superman film, they're doing like, or was it Superman 2? I forget which one, but where Gene Hackman went into the Fortress of Solitude. That was
you're right,
definitely really cool. I was just thinking that exact thing. He does kind of look like Pitbull.
Dale.
But yeah.
Mr. Worldwide.
Hell yeah.
Mr. 305 from Miami.
But yeah, Pitbull seems like a cool dude. Whatever happened to him?
Can you imagine if this movie does get campy enough that there's actually like a dance sequence with Lex Luthor where he's just enjoying his evil glory and he's dancing to the beat of like a Pitbull song? I would totally be for it. I would not mind seeing that.
Just stick.
Sounds like the end of Saltburn.
Just have
to me.
Robotnik stick to the dancing with himself. Dancing with myself. Anyway, you're getting a lot of singing from me. I'm gonna stop that now.
Yeah, I don't know if people are really here for that, John.
Nobody wants to hear me sing. I sound like a dying cat.
A what? Oh, okay.
Dying cat. Honestly, that might be giving myself too much credit.
If you say so.
Anyway.
I mean, as far as just the look of these characters, John, we know that these characters all have a significant role in the movie. We know at some point in the movie, based on the behind-the-scenes photos, that Superman gets arrested by Frank Grillo's Rick Flag Sr., but also in that same sequence, we see that the engineer and Ultraman are there. We know that Ultraman also is fighting Superman in the movie at some point in a baseball field, which is actually literally out of a comic book, because in the comic books that happens as well. I saw that somebody like posted like a side-by-side shot of that. I'm gonna see if I can try to find it somewhere. But with that said, John, do you think in this movie like these characters are on the side of the law, or are these like all vigilantes? Like, because to me it seems like, certainly based on the behind-the-scenes photos, that Ultraman and the engineer are working with the military. Not they're not the villains necessarily, at least not to the public in the movie.
Right. I mean, that's kind of that's like kind of the starting point with Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor was never like a bad guy at first.
Yeah.
But then his obsession with Superman made him become a bad guy, So like I kind of like that angle. Like I don't mind like Lex Luthor being an asshole from the beginning. That's not too bad. But I like the idea of like he starts out okay, and then it's like once life goes on, it's like, oh, now we're kind of getting to the point. I don't think so. Then we get to the point of like, oh, this guy's actually like fucking insane. Let's stop him. And so, it's a good place to start. Like, it's not like totally there, but it's like getting there, and I like
Good
that.
point by Hugo Millie there. Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, yeah, private militaries would probably be very popular because there's probably a lot of rich people out there who are like, I need protection from these metahumans. I don't want Superman to be just able to walk into my door. Like, can you imagine if Elon Musk existed in the world of Superman, and Superman could just go through his front door and just, tell him to like stop doing what he's, I don't know, whatever he's up to. He would probably prefer to, okay, he's got the money to certainly to buy the services of a bunch of, metahumans to help create a little bit of a gap between himself and a potential Superman or Batman barging through the door. So it's very possible. That's a really good point there. Five Sharp saying, hope he doesn't act like a goofball like Jesse Eisenberg did. His acting was so distracting in BVS. And Caleb saying Elon would rename X to Super X. But then the Watcher making a good point, and that's why there's these corporations making superheroes and supervillains in the DCU. But again, doing it in a way that won't feel like what we get in The Boys, I don't think, right? I think they're going to try to do this in a way that still feels earnest and it's telling a story. It's thematically true to the movie, but at the same time, it's not like trying to parody the genre, which is what The Boys does. Now, with that said, this isn't the only shot that we got from that IMAX trailer that we haven't seen in the official trailer that was released on YouTube a few weeks ago. This is, of course, another look, a closer look, in fact, at Mr. Terrific, played by Eddie Gattegi. John, I also noticed that on the far right, there's somebody else either in some kind of goggles or something. Do you recognize who that character is, potentially? Who is that?
I think it's just a guy with glasses.
No, he looks like he's like covered in tattoos or something.
Well, yeah, I mean the clip stopped playing, so now I can't really see it. But
that's about the best look you can get, because otherwise he's sort of obstructed.
Like the guy immediately on the right, that's closer or more or farther.
No, that's closer. Yeah,
no, he's just a guy wearing glasses. That's all.
Okay.
I don't think he's wearing glasses.
It doesn't look like goggles to me.
I think he's covered in tattoos.
I don't see tattoos.
This is not Suicide Squad. The
Just
pyrokinetic
saying,
homeboy.
like.
That's
just saying. That's what I'm saying.
Five-ish art is like, I wish I had a big T painted on my face. I don't know if there's some sarcasm in there or not. The costume of Mr. Terrific looks fantastic to me. Mr. Terrific, fantastic. Look at me playing with names and words. But Liz, Mr. Terrific is a character that you're probably not very familiar with, but just going off the looks alone, are you looking forward to seeing this character and what they could potentially do with the character in the movie? Because to me, this is a character that we haven't seen enough of in live action before, so I'm excited.
I mean, going off the looks alone, and you guys don't have to answer. I'm just saying, going off the looks alone, as someone who has no idea who this character is, I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. He seems very stoic.
He's a good guy.
Well, again, I know that, but I'm saying as somebody who is approaching this, with no knowledge whatsoever, the trailer doesn't really give you
in a good way or a bad way.
I'm saying the trailer doesn't give you that indication if you're somebody that is not familiar with these characters. So in that regard, he's very mysterious. I like I said, I'm getting some stoic vibes. He's very serious. He's got, he seems to be somebody on a mission. So yeah, I mean, that's just the first impression that I get for sure. But it looks cool. He looks cool as hell.
Yeah, I mean, Five-ish art saying he does look cool. I like Green Lantern's stylish bowl cut. Well, that's the whole reason why James Gunn cast Nathan Fillion in the first place, is to put him in a bowl cut. And the Watcher also saying, yes, he's a good guy. John, what are your thoughts on this? There's just a little bit of extra footage.
Looks great.
Where do you think this is? Like, is this Star Labs? Like, what is the location
It could
of this
be,
place?
well, it might be in Stag Industries. It might be where, like, in the middle of, like, the desert or whatever, where they were. I don't think so. I think it's, like, most likely in Stag Industries, Lord Industries, whatever corporation that Mr. Terrific is at this moment. I think that's where they are. That would make the most sense. And they also have that like thing in the background that looks like kind of like a particle accelerator a little bit. So there's
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
too.
say that it either looks like some kind of like portal device or like a particle accelerator. I mean, it can't be a particle accelerator. That would be a really big particle accelerator, but it certainly looks more than just like a tunnel that you walk through. I'm just interested in seeing what these other characters are. I also still see some of those earthy tones. You see like the browns on the desk behind them. It looks like almost like a mission control sort of an environment.
Yeah.
You know, you got there's a television screen hanging off the top right of the image. So yeah, like you said, maybe that other person's got like the headset around their neck. Maybe it's just somebody who works there and has, is wearing glasses. But maybe this is Mr. Terrific watching Superman trying to stop the kaiju, and then eventually decides that he needs to kind of step in and help out. Maybe that's what this is. I'm trying to make sense of it all, or maybe like you said, this is leading up to that sequence where he's in the full trailer. He's got like this magnetic field around him, and there's a bunch of what seem like Lex Luthor soldiers shooting at them, and you've also got like Lois Lane there right next to Mr. Terrific. So we'll see. But these shots, again, with each different shot in this movie, they almost showed you a different location, a different set of characters. It just, there was so much to get out of the teaser trailer alone. Yeah. I'm excited to see how much more we're gonna get from the actual, the first proper story trailer.
I mean, I'm stoked for all the other heroes. I mean, I like how they did say, I like how they said that Mr. Terrific is going to get the biggest role, because I feel like that makes the most sense. I've said that before. I just think, Eddie Gathegi, he deserves some redemption after, they killed the unkillable mutant in fucking X-Men First Class, which, by the way, I just realized this is an X-Men First Class reunion with Nicholas Hoult and Eddie Gathegi. So that's
You're right. That is, yeah. I forgot that he was in that movie.
I can't believe I didn't think of that until now. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
damn, yeah. Good
but
shout.
yeah, Gathegi is a great actor. I would say he's an underrated actor, and could have been great as Darwin. But they I mean, don't get me wrong. X-Men First Class, great movie, but that still pisses me off to this fucking day. That's still, it's like, let's like kill the guy who could like not be killed. Like, okay, sure. It's like Black Bolt like fucking killing himself with his own fucking waves with his voice in fucking Multiverse of Madness. That still pisses me off. Anyway.
Yeah. But you know what? We are getting Mr. Terrific, and Fiona saying in the chat, maybe the T is for treat. I definitely could tell you that's not what this is. We also have Figure Drawing now in the chat as well. So hello, Figure Drawing. Of course, we've got a super chat from Just Some Geeky Guy. Thank you so much for the super chat, the $10 super chat. We're going to definitely get into your super chat in just a little bit once we get into the Batman story. So thank you so much for that. Hugo Millie saying the way his mask works, I think would work for a full face, say for someone like Mr. Miracle. I think so too. We'll see potentially. And then you've got Chuck Rod in here. Chuck, hello, Chuck. You were here the other day. Thanks for being a part of the community. He's saying, I need to see more of the jacket. That jacket is going to be fire. Well, if you've seen the
there's behind the scenes photos.
So you get a really good look at it, and it's very comic accurate. I mean, we spent the whole summer last year. I mean, forget the fact that this upcoming summer is about to be the summer of Superman. For DCU Daily, last summer was the summer of Superman. Because we were talking about it like every day of the week. So if you guys want to like Be Kind Rewind, watch back all those episodes. We broke down pretty much everything they shot. Within the bounds of the downtown Cleveland and Cincinnati. I think it was more Cincinnati, and then they shot a little bit in Cleveland, but like including like that big bridge sequence, they shot that like over the course of a few days on the in Cincinnati. So like we've got all of that coverage, and you're welcome to check that out and get a closer look at Mr. Terrific's costume while you're at it. Caleb saying Black Bolt's death in Multiverse of Madness was mind blowing. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I see what he did there. See what he did there. Clever, Caleb. Clever.
You better fucking watch it, or you're gonna get banned. I'm gonna fucking abuse my powers for your sorry ass.
All right, but with that said, guys, let's continue on with the DC news. Before we get into the Batman story, I came across this one post that really, caught my attention, because it's common now in 2025 that there's many actors out there who have done both the Marvel and the DC thing, right? But it's rare that you see one actor who's got an active role in both cinematic universes where it feels like he's going to be around for a while. And of course, David Harbour is the man I'm talking about in this case, who's playing Red Guardian in the MCU. He's got a pretty big role in the upcoming Thunderbolts movie in this later this summer. And of course, currently airing on Max, he is in the DCU voicing the character of Frankenstein. So in both instances, it looks like Red Guardian isn't going anywhere unless he becomes like one of the characters that kill off in Thunderbolts, which I hope they don't. Please do not do that. And then Frankenstein, it looks like his journey is also not going to be over by the end of the first season of Creature Commandos. And of course, we know that show has been renewed for a second season already. So I just wanted to get your opinion on this, guys. Like, I'll start with you, John, on this one. Do you feel like David Harbour, who you don't have to look that far back, the 2016 Suicide Squad, he was still in his character acting days. Back when he was playing just another government official that's talking to Amanda Waller in that movie.
Yep.
And from
what
that
if
to
Superman
Stranger Things,
flew off the fucking grabbed the roof of the White House and killed the president. And that famous line
from that to where he is today, the evolution of David Harbour. I mean, the dad bod, all of that stuff, to the point where like the dad bod was a big thing, and now he's got like a six pack, whatever. But what do you think about David Harbour just being in both universes at the same time? Do you enjoy one character more than the other that he plays? And do you feel like the two characters he's playing are gonna be around for a long time in both Marvel and DC?
I mean, I hope it is for Frankenstein because it's an interesting character. It just bro has to stop being a simp. That's all. Like, just stop being a fucking simp and just stop that. But like, I can't see Frankenstein being in a lot of DC stuff. But yeah, I mean, Harbour and what was the other? I mean, maybe Bucky are probably going to be the big names that are going to carry that movie. I mean, Thunderbolts, like, I'm not going to watch it, but like, Red Guardian was a fun part of Black Widow, but Thunderbolts looks like it looks more like promising than fucking Captain America 4, so I'll give them that. Thank God for that, because that might actually make the money when Captain America 4 is a bomb. But like, good for him. I mean, he needs some wins after being in Hellboy. Yeah. He needs some superhero wins after being in Hellboy. So good for him. I like David Harbour. It's just like, I feel like David Harbour has had a bit of a curse. Just he hasn't been in a lot of good. It's either a bad movie or a box office bomb or both. Just the man needs a win.
Yeah. Well, look, David Harbour's career has just taken off, in a way that very few actors can say. They've been from, again, like not that long ago. It's not even been 10 years since the Suicide Squad movie came out to where he is today. And very much well-deserved. He is a fantastic actor. He's an amazing personality outside of just, what he does on screen. And him and Frank Grillo have already become the best of friends while voicing their respective characters in Creature Commandos. Mm-hmm. But Liz, for you, coming from the Marvel side, do you have a appreciation for David Harbour and his contributions?
Oh, yes.
And
I love this man.
Are you looking forward to seeing more of him both in Thunderbolts and maybe even a second season of Creature Commandos?
Yeah. I love him. He's great. And I appreciate that he seems to really enjoy what he's the type of actor that he's only taking on roles that he genuinely enjoys. Like, it's not necessarily about a paycheck for him. It's really about, like, if I have to live with this character, is it a character that I like and that I want to delve into further, that I want to explore more? So I'm all for it. I'm happy to get him in any iteration, with any fandom, with any series that I can possibly get, because he delivers every time. So I love the man.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think of all the variants, let's say, or the different iterations of like the super soldier that the MCU has produced, I think outside of Steve Rogers, like, Red Guardian is my favorite, because I can probably watch an entire movie or give him his own limited series. I think David Harbour can do a fantastic job with it.
That would be nice.
And you know what? And Brave New World to me looks great so far. I think it's the trailers have impressed me. I'm gonna give the movie a fair shot. 5-ish art. I agree with you there. But just Thunderbolts to me, the trailer, the fact that that trailer is anchored around David Harbour's Red Guardian should tell you that Marvel
They know
values
where the
the
money
shit
is.
out of. Yes, exactly. Like they know. Like I think one of you guys pointed out in the chat not that long ago that Caleb said he's going to carry the movie, and he
Yeah.
will. He will carry the movie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, John, do you think that David Harbour's Frankenstein has like a bigger future in live action or other projects, or is he just going to be relegated to Creature Commandos like moving forward?
Maybe relegated to Creature Commandos. Maybe like something with Peacemaker. I could see that because that's a connection with Argus, and Creature Commandos is connected to Argus in a way. So I can see that, but like that side of the universe, but nothing too crazy, I don't think.
Yeah. And then do you think that they might give him a different role? Like, I mean, if they think that when it comes to live action that Frankenstein doesn't really have a ton else to do you think David Harbour can step into a different role, maybe where he's not
I mean,
hidden behind
James
a
Gunn
CGI
said
character?
they would only give them one role. I mean, we went over that yesterday with Alan Tudyk. So,
but still, I'm just saying, like, what he also said was, they just sort of cast Alan Tudyk for a few different roles because they were like, these characters don't have a big role to play in the show. But I'm just saying, like, for example, if Frankenstein isn't a big part of the live action DCU, then do you think they can give a different live action role to David Harbour instead?
I don't think so. I think they're going to stick with this one character for him. I think it makes sense for that.
I mean, I'm done with that. Look, David Harbour, like we've been saying, is incredibly talented. Of course, the last season of Stranger Things is on the horizon, so he's plenty busy. But by the way, guys, if you are watching us, and I see a lot of you guys are watching us, please hit that like button. We do appreciate it. It helps us out a ton, and we appreciate every like because then that gets us in front of more eyeballs, and then we can grow the community. We see new people in the chat each and every day, and again, we're welcoming you here and to be a part of our community. We really, really do appreciate you. Speaking of which, of course, we did get a super chat earlier, and now it's time to talk about the topic that the super chat was addressing. So let's get into that, shall we? The Batman is, there's two iterations right now going on. There's one, the Batman, and then there's the DCU Batman. Let's quickly kind of address the Batman because I came across this like nice graphic from Culture Crave, and they kind of like put all this information in one place. And to me, the biggest thing right now that's a little, it's hard to believe, unfortunately, is that the script is going to be ready for this movie to hit its release date, John. Of course, we know that Colin Farrell's Penguin is going to be in there. We know that they're going to continue the story on from where the Penguin leaves off. And if Matt Reeves has his way, it's only going to take place a few months after the first movie, despite the fact that they're going to release the damn thing like 6 years later. So Matt Reeves, of course, has admitted recently that he is a slow writer, and it's the only way that he knows how to do it. But he is still also promising a real surprise to
Wait,
people.
Dan, was it you that mentioned that I forget where I found this information, but it was like technically Matt Reeves was hired in like 2017.
I think somebody in the chat said that because yes, he was
and then
hired
we
in
got
like
the Batman in 2022, so that took 5 years. So that's what I'm kind of. It's just like the fucking stupid thing that he wants to do is like, oh, make it like the Batman happens, the Penguin happens 2 weeks later, and the Batman Part 2 happens a couple months after that. So it's like that is like, as long as you don't do that, like obviously plans change, just don't do that. Just have it take place a couple years later. Like, so it actually like makes, I understand that's not what he wants to do, but it's like, if you know you're a slow writer, and especially now that you're also going through some personal stuff, which is sad, like I'm not gonna like keep that against him or anything. It sucks. Like sometimes terrible things happen to people and it just impedes your job performance in some way, and he's dealing with that, but he's still trying to write this thing, so that's commendable. But even then, he said he's a slow writer, but you're still trying to do this thing where it was okay, so he got hired in 2017 originally to write. Yeah, so I think but I think they revealed that like he was not gonna be Gucci with that. I think like a year into it, he's like, yeah, I'm not. Less than a year into it, he's like, yeah, I'm not doing this. I'm doing my own thing. But I think like just abandon the idea of like this taking place like 2 weeks later. Just have it at the very least a couple months later. Like I know you want to do like winter like Batman, which is cool. I mean, Batman Returns did that, but so all right, that's just at least Batman Part 2 has a release date. So I think just don't do that. That's all I'm saying. Don't do that. Like just have it take place months, years later, because I feel like that's just as the days go by, especially with the release date we have now, that's just becoming unrealistic.
Yeah. I mean, also Antonio Baker kind of pointing out that look, there's a number of things that have happened. Like COVID delayed the first Batman movie like twice. But still, like the fact that the script isn't done yet, it still bothers me that it's taken him 3 or 4 years to do it. I mean, but Liz, what do you think? Do you think that it's a good idea at this point, given that the movie is going to come out almost 6 years after the first one, that maybe they should change up the story a little bit so that it accounts for the passage of time in real life, particularly because it might then open up the possibility to do a second season of the Penguin without it necessarily, being held back by the fact that the first season of the Penguin takes place between the first two movies, and that if you then move the events forward beyond the second movie, it would basically be spoiling the events of the Batman 2, right? Like, what do you think about that idea?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like so much has already happened in the Penguin alone that it kind of has left room so that you don't have to immediately start off where the Batman ended. So that to me doesn't matter as much. And again, with the passage of time, like, I have no problem with them changing up the timeline like that. Because again, it might get pushed back further. It's I can't trust the timeline at this point with what's been going on. Again, I'm still going to see it. I'm still looking forward to it. But I definitely feel like, especially because we're probably getting season 2 of the Penguin before we're getting the Batman 2. So it's at this rate, they've got to keep that story moving along.
Yeah, I mean, Five Shark saying it wouldn't surprise him or her if it gets canceled. I don't think they're gonna cancel it.
I hope
this late in the game.
I really hope not.
And then Marco Ramos making a good point that if the story changes, that's more than 3 years there just for writing. I mean, potentially, if all of a sudden you tell Matt Reeves, but wait, you need to like make sure this takes place a few months later than what you had originally planned. He's gonna be like, oh no, that changes. He's gonna be like the Riddler, no, and then he's like all of a sudden gonna go back, rip the script up, and then do a whole new script. So maybe that's not such a good idea. But you know what? He did make an interesting comment recently at the red carpet. I think it was around the Golden Globes. And Matt Reeves was asked about the movie, and of course, he's been watching a lot of the speculation online about the villain of the second film. But he said that, they're going to do something that will really surprise people, and that he's seeing, all these rumors online, and he's like, huh, so that's what they think? I think we're going to really surprise people with what the main villain of this movie is going to be. Liz, do you have any guesses as to where they might go with the villain for this movie?
No.
Do you care to speculate?
Well, no, and again, because James Gunn is like really adamant about introducing characters that haven't really been in the forefront before and not going back to the same storyline, not going back to the same well. So the fact that he's making it a point to say, no, you're not going to see these same villains that you've already seen before makes me think it's going to be somebody that we've not had certainly not in a film iteration. So I have no idea who it could possibly be. Maybe it's Mr. Freeze. Maybe John gets what he wants, but I don't necessarily see him doing that either. I think it's going to be somebody like essentially unknown to the layman.
Let's go, Hugo. Condiment King, played by Denzel Washington. Let's fucking go. That would be the greatest movie ever.
But also, one of the other points on this list, Matt Reeves was again being asked about the Batman, and one of the things he was asked about is Greg Fraser coming back to be the director of photography for the sequel, because he was the one for the first movie. He's of course been on the first 2 Dune movies, but now that the Dune movies production schedule is sort of moved around a little bit, it potentially we thought would free him up to take on the Batman 2. But Matt Reeves was asked about this, and he said, we likely won't know for sure until the script is finished. Of course, we likely won't know until the script is finished. But John, given the production timelines of the 2 movies, do you think Greg Fraser's coming back for the Batman 2, or they're going to need to get somebody else?
I mean, they did say that, Dune Messiah is going to have a different cinematographer because Greg Fraser did the previews too. And that makes me believe that he'll do part 2. Obviously, things change and he can do like other projects in the meantime. But that's giving me a little bit of intrigue that, like, I think so. I think. Yeah, I don't think the Riddler was the David Fincher ripoff. It was more like it was the Zodiac killer, but green.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the basics. And David Fincher didn't invent the Zodiac killer; it was a real guy.
Right.
So yes, for the win, played by I don't know Timothy Chalamet. Sure, why not? But yeah, I think that gives me some zest of like, I think he'll do Batman Part 2, but worst comes to worst, they'll just get a different cinematographer. Greg Fraser was like, I'm sick of waiting around. I'll do this instead, and then he doesn't do either. So, but the guy they got for Dune Messiah is great, and whoever they get for this, whether it be Fraser or somebody else, will be great as well.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, so it's a good thing that Christopher Nolan's already got somebody for his movie, because I'm like, Greg Fraser is in high demand, and Christopher Nolan's, filming the Odyssey this year. But then again, Nolan has a couple of people he works with, he sticks with them, and that's where he's gonna go. But speaking of the big department heads, Michael Giacchino did the music, the score for the first movie. So far, he's promised to return, but he's also doing Fantastic Four, and I'm sure he's got other projects lined up. Do you think his participation in this movie is also affected by the delays on the script and the release date? Because when it comes to the score, he may not get involved in this until the movie is got a picture lock, right? Like, and they bring it in for the recording the score. I mean, he will be developing the score before that. But as far as like when they actually record the score for the movie, that's when you have picture lock. So if the movie's coming out in 2027, that's a long ways out. Do you think Michael Giacchino is going to be back for the movie, or do you think he moves on with other, like, Marvel at this rate might put out a second Fantastic Four movie by 2027, given the pace at which they move. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, Liz, do you think Michael Giacchino has the time to return for the sequel?
I mean, I hope they can figure out how to make it work. With Hollywood and money, all things are possible. But and again, it's going to be a while, so I'm sure they can move some stuff around. They could make it happen. But I don't know. I can't. When we're talking years out, I really can't make any type of predictions like that. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting sick and tired of talking about it, to be perfectly honest with you, because it's just like, why are we talking about something that we're not getting for quite some time? But it's always in the news. We always got to talk about it. So I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. Hugo Millie suggesting Condiment King and Professor Pig duo. And then Antonio Baker saying, so the movie made you think it's so you don't like it. I'm moving that. Wait, so you don't like I'm moving that makes you think, well, I introduce you to the MCU, maybe that's more your speed. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying, but I'm just gonna let that lie. The movie is currently scheduled to start filming in Q3 of 2025. Do any of you guys believe that they will actually stick with that timeline?
I think so. I think the past, the last time we got a thing, you said it's almost done. So I'd like to believe, just like the X-Files, I want to believe that we're going to be getting production soon. I don't think I know. I've seen a bunch of people that are like, it's going to be canceled for sure. It's not happening. They're not going to have two Batman. Blah, 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 blah. So it's like, it's not 2008 anymore. I think they're going to, this is a different era. This is different people in charge. I think they're going to have more than one. I think people can handle it. And I'm pumped for that. And I do think that I think Q3 2025 makes sense. That's around like late summer, I think, isn't it? If I remember, if I know my quarters correctly.
Yeah, you're talking like basically the fall months, right? You're
Yeah,
talking
like late summer, early
July,
fall.
August, September.
July, August, September. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's like Ron is like they better film in
they
late
fucking
2025.
better, you know.
And then the Watcher making a good point that, you know what, if the movie is successful, they can, well, you know what, they can try to fast track it, but Matt Reeves did say he is slow and he knows that he's slow. So
damn, Five Ash and Antonio are going fucking at it. Goddamn. Five Ash is like, no, this movie sucks, and Antonio's like, how about you shut the fuck up?
Sheesh.
Yep. I'm trying not to get involved in that. You guys sort that out amongst yourselves. But there's a couple other points in this graphic that I think we've talked about them before, but it's worth a mention. Since the Penguin just won a Golden Globe, with Colin Farrell winning for Best Actor in the limited series, he did say not too long ago, when the Penguin was still on the air with the season 1, or I guess the only season that it has, if it still remains a limited series, that he's going to be appearing in as many as 5 to 6 scenes. That's what he's been told by Matt Reeves in the sequel. So, of course, you know, that does say something about the fact that the Penguin is going to continue to be a part of this universe. Whether 5 to 6 scenes doesn't really constitute being the main villain of the movie, but it does show us that he's still a part of this universe and the story they're trying to tell. The other more important note that I wanted to kind of quickly bring up here, and maybe just the last one on this list, because you know, James Gunn debunking that Clayface and Scarecrow will be in the movie is something we have discussed before. Clayface is getting his own movie, and we know that's the DCU thing. So, you know, and the Scarecrow is something that, you know, we talked about before. And Lauren LaFranc has said that, you know, it wasn't Scarecrow in the Penguin. I'm forgetting the name of the actor who played the therapist. But the big thing that Matt Reeves mentioned on that Golden Globes red carpet was, he was asked specifically about whether the Batman could join the DCU. He said, you know what, I really love that James Gunn and Peter Safran, you know, believe in what we're doing. And, you know, I wanted to kind of do this crime saga, what we are calling the Batman Epic Crime Saga. Terrible name. The Batman Epic Crime Saga. He was saying very specifically the idea that he wants to focus on the criminal element. The idea that these are going to be, you know, crime thrillers, criminal thriller. What's the term for it, John? It's a murder mystery, a crime drama. Yes, he wants to specifically, seemingly focus on that aspect of what the first Batman movie was. So, do you think that the second movie is pretty much going to be a rinse and repeat with a different serial killer, or are we going in a different direction?
Murder mysteries. Murders are very, unfortunately, unique depending on the person. I mean, it could be just another, he needs to catch a serial killer, instead of, you know, guy whose discount saw. This guy will be, you know, he kills his victims in a freezer, so they're calling him Mr. Freeze, you know, like that kind of shit. But whatever they decide to do, I think it could be repetitive, but it could be bigger, it could be better. Even if they're doing the same thing again, well, it's like, as long as it's good, then it's like, I don't really give a fuck. So, you know, whatever they decide to do, I don't think a murder mystery would be too bad, as long as it's written and directed well.
Yeah. Yep. There's a really funny comment in the chat from Just Some Geeky Guy, which the whole El Rata. El, what are you showing me? I can't wait until the Batman Part 2 comes out, says Just Some Geeky Guy. And it opens with him listening to Rosetta Stone's Spanish lessons, so he doesn't get tricked again. That's what it said. El Rata is the worst Spanish I've ever heard. Like, I can't do the accent, but like, it's funny. It's so hilarious. I love it. That would be funny. Like, if he's just got like ear pods in and he's just listening to Rosetta Stone, and it's like,
while he at the same time he's listening to Nirvana in the background. He's just listening to Spanish. He's doing Duolingo on his phone while he's like trying to catch a criminal.
He's like, what are you doing over there? Like, you know, Gordon is like, what are you doing?
I'm researching.
I'm just doing my daily Duolingo exercise. Like, it's like,
I need to catch this out.
Batman.
He just threatened to kill another family.
Yeah, figure drawing. Spanish is Batman's one weakness.
His one weakness is dead parents. He's like, I was devastated. I stopped being devastated, and now I'm devastated again. Whatever it is.
Yep. L'Espagnol,
Wow,
Batman.
butchering Espanol there.
Yeah, you
Woof.
totally did, but I'm gonna go with it. It's all right. We don't want to editorialize your comments. But it's just some geeky guy saying James Gunn should do a Batman movie where Bruce Wayne gets Luigi'd.
Luigi'd.
I missed the I.
You don't want to read this quote. You
And
don't want to read this quote.
And the rest of the Bat family has to hunt him down.
Oh God, what the fuck?
Cool. That would be interesting. That you could pitch that to James Gunn. I'm sure he will listen to the idea. But yes, that is the Batman 2, and where that's at. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, there's 2 Batman projects currently in the works. So now let's talk about the DCU Batman here that it says in the graphic, because Andy Muschietti is saying, well, as far as he knows, Robert Pattinson's not going to be the DCU Batman. And he mentioned more specifically saying there is a Batman that everyone knows is the Batman that belongs in the new universe. The Batman of Matt Reeves is obvious he's not from the new universe. Now,
yeah,
some of that seems a little obvious, like Andy Muschietti said, but I want to bring up the comment from just some geeky guy who left us a really, really lovely super chat earlier, and he was saying, or he was asking, do you guys think that having 2 different Batman going on at the same time would create a conflict of interest and negatively impact the box office performances of Brave and the Bold?
No.
Now, the Brave and the Bold that's going to be directed by Andy Muschietti is not set to come out for a little while longer. Do you think that will be the case? I mean, these movies will probably not even come out in the same year.
No, I don't think so.
I think if anything, it will help because people are going to want to compare the 2. They're
going to want to compare. You're going to have
decide.
nerds fucking being like, this one did this one did, and all that shit.
Yeah.
Whether they're toxic arguments or actually healthy arguments depends on the people in charge of the arguments. But let's say discussion.
If anything, they're just going to get more hate watchers too.
So. Going to get more hate watchers, more like you're probably going to get all the Snyder cultists to watch the Batman because it's dark, grim dark, like they love to jerk off to. And then you're going to get the people who actually like Batman to watch Brave and the Bold and all that shit. So, whatever they decide to do is, but I think I said this yesterday. I think it was yesterday, where it's like having 2 different Batman. And like, I mean, I know Dan and I kind of go off on each other about Superman versus Batman, who's the more but it's like, it's Batman. We know it's Batman. As Dan says,
more popular.
DC Comics is the house that Batman built. So,
it's Detective Comics.
Yeah. I was literally talking about that with Liz in the backstage before. But having 2 different Batman, it might be confusing for some general audiences, but like, that shit is gonna fucking print money because you're gonna have the people that really like the Batman and whatever it does do, and then we might be getting a bigger and better version of the sequel because like sequels go bigger, and Matt Reeves has been saying, I want to do bigger, I want to do better, I want to have it really go crazy, and it's like, that's usually the case for sequels. And then you're going to have the people that are like, well, I don't mind the more realistic Batman, but it's like, I want fantastical Batman. I prefer fantastical Batman. He is a Gary Stu, depending on the writer. But then you're going to have the more fantastical thing, and people are going to be like, well, I like this one. And then you're going to have the nerds that are going to go to both and be like, well, I like what this Matt Reeves did here, and here, but I like what Andy Muschietti was doing here, and here. And I think... I think that's just I think that's just profit. I seriously think that's just profit. Now, could it? Obviously, yes, anything could happen, but that's just life. Anything can fucking happen. But I think in this case, it's gonna fucking print money. It's gonna. I don't know who's gonna make more, but like between the 2, like let's say, like if we're going off the Batman. It's going to be $770 million. And then maybe if even this movie makes something close to that, that's over $1 billion between these 2 movies. Like you're going to be like, for sure, $1 billion between. You might even get like, if both of them are that good and that much better. You might be even getting close to 2 billion. So again, I think this is just gonna fucking print money. And
by the way, Ron asking the question, do you think because if you're getting 2 Batman movies, if you're getting a DCU Batman with the whole Bat family, do you think they're going to potentially kill off Batman so they can focus on the Bat family? Can they take that step even?
No. I don't think that's the case. No, that would be really dumb. They're not going to pull a Gotham Knights or what.
I hope not for a long time at least.
Both
but sorry,
versions,
what were you saying before?
game
You're
and
saying
the
you
fucking
like
TV show.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about like you like is it just the design of the suit or like, well, so far we don't really know what the suit looks like, but
More silhouette.
yeah. More silhouette. Yeah, that live chat fight is still going on. But Liz, the quote on screen here specifically talks about how, as far as Andy Muschietti is aware, Robert Pattinson is not the Batman of the DCU. It's
Right.
He's gonna be the Batman in the Matt Reeves movies, and that's sort of its own thing,
That's
and
fine.
it doesn't belong in the DCU. He's, as far as he knows, I mean, does it? To me, that says, as far as Andy Muschietti knows, he's meant to cast a new Batman. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Well, first of all, who is this Andy Muschietti guy? Do we like him? Because so far, everything that I've seen from him, again, I'm late in the game. I don't know if I like this dude. I think he's kind of a dickhead, but I don't know enough about him. But yeah, it makes sense to me that we would see our Pats in one iteration and not the other. So I don't know why it's important to him for him to make that stance, but he's also leading to speculation of, okay, who's going to fill those shoes then? Are we going to get somebody who's previously played Batman in another iteration, or is this going to be a complete unknown? Is this going to be somebody, I really don't know. But again, it's not a surprise that our pads wouldn't be a part of both projects. So I don't know why it needs to. I feel like it goes without saying, but for some reason Andy's got to put his 2 cents in. I don't know.
I think the biggest reason why I think he's addressing it is because there has been speculation. Because James Gunn said at one point he considered the idea of Robert Pattinson's Batman being integrated into the DCU. He ultimately passed on the idea of doing that because he wanted, to give Matt Reeves the freedom to do what he's doing with that story.
And James Gunn can do what he wants to do.
Exactly. Now, with that said, though, Andy Muschietti is also addressing something, else regarding Batman: Brave and the Bold, and that's his intention to direct the movie itself. So, he was asked about that in the same interview, and he mentioned there are good intentions for now. The studio wants to do the film with me, and I want to do it as well. We're talking about ideas and about the story and tone. Now, this comes after the quote where he said that, hey, there's been a bit of a delay on the Batman, or the Batman Brave and the Bold, so I might do another movie in the meantime, which to us was like alarming. I'm like, does he expect the script to take another year or two to finish, long enough for him to work on finishing his own script that he's writing, a sci-fi movie of some kind, and then direct that movie before he even sets foot onto the project that is Batman Brave and the Bold? Now, of course, since then he has made this comment, which is more in line with the fact that this is the next thing he's going to be working on, and that he is having active conversations. John is taking a break. Well, Liz, what do you think? Do you think this is a result of all the backlash from his previous comment, where he was like, "I'll do another movie potentially before I focus on this," and whereas now he's more like, "Oh yeah, we're having conversations. We're talking."
Well, again, that's why I was questioning like why we're giving this guy any airtime at all, because he made a gaffe earlier. James Gunn had to come in and correct that gaffe and kind of give him a slap on the wrist. So now I think he's trying to re-enter the conversation, but again, it's definitely something that goes without saying. So
100%.
all right, this is just him trying to kind of
it's him to along with, as you were saying, it's essentially him being like, okay, I fucked up, let me try to in addition to the whole Matt Reeves not finishing the Batman Part 2 script and all of that, in addition to him believing he kind of fucked up before. He's like, okay, let me throw you an olive branch. I am working on it. There are some ideas it being presented. I'm still a director on the project. I'm still working on it. And also the fact I'm shutting down the idea that we're going to have the same Batman. The Becks and the DCU are not combining into one thing.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for that because, like, a buddy of mine is like, I would really want to see them together. I'm like, the fucking mental gymnastics you would have to fucking do to get Robert Pattinson and David Corenswet in the same universe would just be fucking ridiculous. Like, it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. You know, I think, you know, I mean, with what they've gotten A-listers as Batman. They've gotten, you know, unknowns as Batman. Whoever they choose, I think will be a good choice. I do hope we get somebody bigger. Like, I am sick. I've said this before. I'm sick of the Alan Richardson fan casting. I'm sick of the Jensen Ackles fan casting.
How dare you?
Scott Adkins fan casting.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
It's just like, in terms of fan, like, and this is just from a fan point of view, I'm just like, be at least a little bit more creative with your fan casting, not the same 3 names over and over and over again. It's just like when I saw Jake Gyllenhaal, I was like, okay, I can see that. That would be great. And it's fucking different. Thank God. So I could see Jake Gyllenhaal as Batman. It just, the what I want to see from Batman, I want to see someone who can nail both, because I feel like every Batman we've ever gotten, they do one really, really well, but they can't do the other one. George Clooney, he did Bruce Wayne really well because he was just acting like himself, because it was just George Clooney being George Clooney, and that's essentially Bruce Wayne. And then you have, you know, you had Ben Affleck being a really good Batman, outside of the fact, you know, him fucking killing people, but, you know, he still like nailed Batman. And it's just like the only one I could think of who relatively nailed both is probably Val Kilmer, the closest out of all the live action Batman. Like Christian Bale, he nailed Bruce Wayne. I didn't really, and I'm not just talking about the throat cancer voice. I just don't think he was an amazing Batman by any means. Robert Pattinson, I think, was okay, like, as much, but in terms of like the closest to the comic, in addition to being really good as both and nailing what the character was at that point, I think Val Kilmer got it the closest. Because Michael Keaton, I didn't buy him as Bruce Wayne. He was pretty good as Batman, but like, I don't know. It's just like, I want a guy who I want a Kevin Conroy for live action. Kevin Conroy is the be-all and end-all for animation. I want that for live action, because I feel like the only one that I like genuinely out of all of them is Adam West. He's the most iconic one out of all of them, and that was, I mean, look, I think that's subjective. Batman. So, you know.
Like, to me, like, this is one thing I think Ben Affleck's Batman did really well, is understand the core idea that, you know, Bruce Wayne is the mask and Batman is the real person.
Even then,
and
I
the
don't
way
totally
he portrayed that, and then when you look at, I mean, look, that's subjective. I think, to me, Ben Affleck was one of the best Batman because of like the action sequences, the way the Batman fights, the way he's like, you know, he fights, you know, better than not just the average person, but than the best of the best, you know, trained, you know, military men. Like, he's beating up dudes who are probably ex-military in that movie, and he's, of course, in that movie very brutal, but at the same time, he's brooding. There's that scene when you first get introduced to Batman in BVS where he's literally like on the ceiling and the cops are scared shitless of him, even though they kind of know he's a good guy. But to me, like, he played that role really, really well. I feel like we should have gotten more of the Ben Affleck Batman. I loved Christian Bale's, you know, Batman, because I thought he did a good job of kind of balancing the two things out, particularly for the kind of stories we're trying to tell, which was a much more grounded, more realistic take. And so far, I feel like Robert Pattinson's Batman has been pretty darn good for like a younger Batman who's still learning on the job. And as far as his Bruce Wayne persona goes, the Batman isn't the finished, you know, product in terms of what Bruce Wayne looks like. In the Batman, in 2022's The Batman, Bruce Wayne is still learning to be Bruce Wayne that we know in the comics as like the billionaire playboy philanthropist who's not really quite there yet. He's not put on that mask yet. He is still just being himself, which is Batman in and out of the costume. So with that said, I do want to kind of move on a little bit to talking about the idea, because there's this article that I came across on Nerdist, and they were like saying, hey, if Robert Pattinson's Batman were to join the DCU, there is precedent for how it could work. And John, I wanted to ask you, because the gist of the article was that in the comics they've crossed over different iterations of Batman with other characters where you wouldn't imagine them meshing together very well, but they made it work, so therefore you can do it in the movies. What do you think about that argument? Do you think you could translate that comic book logic across the screen?
I think it's innately fucking bullshit. It's just like I read this fucking article and it's just like, wow, look, tell me you don't understand anything without telling me you don't understand anything. They're like, oh yeah, the gritty, realistic. I think if you go further down, they're like, oh yeah, the gritty, realistic Batman can work with the super fantastical. And then they give Batman Year One as an example. Batman Year One was not main continuity, dickhead. It was fucking Frank Miller's Elseworld. Shut the fuck up. So, there was that. It's just like they're just giving innately bullshit arguments for an innately bullshit side. It's just like I was reading this and I just got angry. Like, it's just like, you don't know anything about shit. Like, just shut the fuck up. Stop talking, please. So yeah, they're trying to give these talking points of why this could work, and it just doesn't work. Like, your logic falls through, and it's just a puff piece to get clicks, and that's essentially all it is. Like, it's not, it just doesn't work. They're like, oh, Frank Miller didn't create a main continuity Batman. Like, if you're talking about Frank Miller's Batman and Superman, then sure, like in Dark Knight Returns, then I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. But Year One was not main continuity. That was an Elseworld story. That was the continuity with Dark Knight Returns, it wasn't officially Elseworlds, but it was not mainline continuity. So, and then they bring up, oh, Christian Bale's Batman. People wanted that for the DCEU, and guess what? It was fucking stupid there too, because that made no fucking sense.
I wanted that for a moment, but I mean, in hindsight, I realized that it wouldn't have worked very well.
It wouldn't have worked because it's realistic Batman and real world kind of shit that wouldn't have worked even with Zack Snyder's vision. It just wouldn't have worked. I can't see Christian Bale and Henry Cavill side by side in a I mean, I could see them together, quote unquote, here, but not in a logistic sense. It just doesn't make sense.
It's one of those things where, like you said, the mental gymnastics may be a bridge too far. But Liz, they also kind of say that, hey, when you watch the first Iron Man movie with Robert Downey Jr. in 2008, it really doesn't hint at the more fantastical elements of like Thor being an Asgardian god, or ancient sorcerers like Doctor Strange, which come later on, or giant purple aliens and all the different things like Thanos and the Infinity Saga and everything else that comes beyond the first phase of the MCU. It's much more grounded at that point, especially the first Iron Man movie. I think it had I don't think it had very many sequences where you even hinted at any other hero existing in that universe. It was sort of a standalone, pretty much. So they say that if you can kind of expand from that and build on it, why not do it with the Batman? I mean, do you think that's possible? Oh, I think Liz just dropped off. Well, oops. I guess I'll ask you that question, John. Do you think that logic applies in this case? Can they do that?
I think it just like the fucking Iron Man argument was also fucking stupid. Like, it's like, oh, Iron Man can't be with like gods and stuff. They didn't plan that from the beginning. Yeah, okay, they didn't plan that from the beginning, but it's also Iron Man. It's not guy who puts on a bat suit and that can like kind of work in the real world. Iron Man Tony Stark literally created a suit of armor that can fly, that shoots laser beams. I don't think it's too far-fetched that a Greek god would be next to him fighting with a super soldier from the 40s. I don't think it's totally outlandish like you're trying to make that. Like, yeah, it's not like totally in the realm of like super duper crazy shit like Eternals, but it's also not super duper like realistic Batman type shit that they're trying to prove here. It just doesn't work. Like I know what you're trying to say, but it's still bullshit. So like again, this article is just it's so fucking stupid.
I mean, Liz, I'll put the question back to you.
Yeah.
Again, do you think the logic that, hey, you could start with a movie like Iron Man and then have Thor and everything else that has come since in the MCU all be part of the same universe? So why not, have Robert Pattinson's Batman join up with, David Cornstar's Superman? Do you think that could work?
Yeah. Well, and sorry, gang, the site crashed on me there for a second. Listen, anything is possible. You can absolutely hope for the best, try to work it out. The reason that everything worked the way that it did in Marvel was because, like Iron Man, they were taking a shot in the dark. They were taking a chance. They had hopes, but they really didn't know what direction things were going to be headed in. They certainly didn't know there was going to be all kinds of studio, change ups and things happening there. So they put out Iron Man maybe with the hope that it could go further, but not with any expectations beyond that. I think the fact that the MCU did so well for so long is what's kind of motivating these types of conversations and the idea that they could potentially do the same thing. But again, we also don't want to be doing the same thing that Marvel has done. So, sure, it could work. Then fucking throw Aquaman in there all of a sudden. Like anything could work, theoretically, but at the end of the day, I agree with what John's saying and you can let them be separate and they're still going to be great. People are still going to want to see them. So, don't try to, I do like that James Gunn is doing that, but he has also said himself, when it works and it makes sense to stick to canon, I'm going to stick to canon. When it works and makes sense to go off and kind of do our own creative thing and put our own original spin on it, we're going to do that as well. So forcing every project to somehow merge with one another and enter the same universe, the same realm, whatever you want to call it, it worked for Marvel for a little while. They kind of fell off. They were having some troubles with it. They got into the weeds there, certainly during COVID. I don't know that the DCU needs that. The DCEU, the DCU. I don't know that anybody needs that. So, I agree with John for sure. It's just leave it alone.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, and also the one thing that with regards to a realistic Batman being in a more fantastical world, that a lot of people sometimes it's a nuanced thing. TC24, by the way, saying my issue with merging the Batman is, can we really see Reeves' Batman competing with Luthor in terms of tech and IQ? Well, I mean, yeah, that's another consideration because you'd have to kind of retcon a few things along the way in terms of like who this character is, and again, it limits you a little bit. But I think when you compare like the Ben Affleck Batman to, let's say, the Robert Pattinson Batman, they're both in and of itself fairly realistic takes, and yet the Ben Affleck Batman felt a little more larger than life, and it felt like the character could then scale up, with the Batcave that he had, and then the these larger than life vehicles, whether it's like the Bat Crawler or like the Bat Tank or the Bat whatever, the troop carrier that he designs. Those kind of things, are the kind of elements that made that Batman be able to exist. He could fight aliens in a universe that had Superman and the whole Justice League, whereas, the Batman just feels like maybe it's harder to kind of reconcile those elements. And it's more just the fact that this Batman has a ceiling beyond which, the realism just, you can't stretch it far enough to meet a world where metahumans exist, particularly because I think once we see Superman this summer, people are no longer going to be talking about this. Why? Because you're going to realize just how lived in and well populated the world of Superman is, the DCU, with metahumans everywhere, and it's a lot more well established than the world of the Batman, where only one singular superhero exists, and it's hard to reconcile those things. It's like the first Man of Steel movie just had hints that maybe Bruce Wayne exists and a few other things like that. But the first Superman movie in this new DCU is going to bring in a whole cast of characters that could be part of a future Justice League or other superhero teams.
Right.
So it's a very different comparison. Like, it's going to be much harder to integrate, Robert Pattinson's Batman into a universe that's already living and breathing and seemingly already has its own history and its future. And he's got metahumans like on every other corner of the street practically, whereas Robert Pattinson's Batman, quite frankly, comes from a Gotham City where beyond him we may not even have many other vigilantes. Like, Catwoman has left town, so
essentially we might get a Robin in a future movie, but even that's pushy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to that end, we're probably more likely just gonna stick with the two universes being their separate things. And with that said, guys,
please.
Yes, and with that said, of course, Andy Muschietti, it looks like he got the same message that Matt Reeves got. That hey, getting a little bit of bad press, you're gonna cost my Superman movie to suffer. So you better get your ass in gear and start talking. Like you're working on the movie right now, as they should be. Andy Muschietti, of course, saying that he is having conversations with the studio, even though there looks to be a little bit of a delay on the script for Brave and the Bold. And then, of course, Matt Reeves is continuing to say that he wants to get this movie into production this year, the Batman Part 2, that is. Now, with that in mind, of course, if you enjoyed DCU Daily, let us know in the comments down below if you've been watching live and dropping your comments in the live chat, much like, just some geek guy who gave us an awesome super chat. We appreciate it. We enjoy having you guys around. We are here 5 days a week with DCU Daily, so hit that like button, hit subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. Now, with that in mind, we're not quite done yet with the Those Are Curious Times DCU Daily, because even though we have just done DCU Daily, as we usually like to do, we will end the show on looking ahead to the movie of the week for next week. And of course, the movie of the week for next week, this week, is Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. So are you ready for some more Gerard Butler action, where he gets framed as the bad guy and then ends up being still the good guy? I mean, that's the impression I'm getting from the trailers. But I want to get your opinion, guys. Liz, you probably saw the trailer for Den of Thieves 2. I'm not sure if you've actually seen the first Den of Thieves. Are you ready for this movie? Is this a movie that excites you?
I sure am. I will be seeing it in less than 24 hours. I'm really looking forward to it. I love Gerard Butler. I'm excited for O'Shea's Jr. there. I forget what his name is.
O'Shea Jackson Jr.
Thank you, O'Shea Jackson Jr. He is a junior, yeah. But I loved the first film. That's right, Ice Cube Jr. I loved the first film with Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, with Pablo Schreiber. My God. So I'm looking forward to this. I love me a heist movie, gang. I love me a heist movie. And I completely agree with you, Dan. I think Gerard is playing both sides. And in the end, he's gonna, because he didn't get his man the first time around. In the end, he's gonna collar his man. We'll see what happens. But maybe there'll be a Den of Thieves 3. Am I gonna be upset about it? Certainly not. So I can't wait.
Yeah, Den of Thieves 2, Megadeth. Or Den of Thieves 3.
That's right, 100%.
The cop goes gangsta. Okay. Right.
Den of Thieves 4, Alice Cooper. Den of Thieves 5,
Metallica.
6, Den of Thieves 6, Ghost. Honestly, that's actually sounds like a really good title. Like,
that'd be real sick. Actually, I'm totally down for it.
I mean, John, what do you think about the movie? Is this something
Den of
that
Thieves
excites you?
7, Seals and Croft. Anyway, okay, that's
yeah.
But speaking of Superman, it's got the Superman crest thing.
The diamond, yeah.
I'm not gonna see this shit. It looks stupid. I thought the first one looked stupid. It looked forgettable crap.
All that?
This looks like forgettable crap. I mean, I like a heist movie, but I liked, again, I might have AMC Stubbs A-list, but I'm still gonna be picky and choosy. Like, this looks fucking stupid.
You're no fun, John.
I'm fun. I just know what I like, and I'm probably not gonna like this. So
I mean, the Rotten Tomatoes score is probably not gonna be pretty. The fact that they haven't even, let that be a public thing yet. There's still an embargo out there, and the movie's coming out in literally a day from now.
Perfect.
That does sound like the perfect title. Thank you, Monkey Jeebus. Yes. Now we've got a whole series of movies. This movie needs to end with one of those sequences where they preview all the future sequels.
Den
I
of
would love to see
Thieves,
that.
Betty White Titfuck. Let's go. That is an actual name of a band, by the way.
I think I'm done.
To look it up. Anyway.
Yep. Well, hey, the movie comes out literally a day from now. You might be able to go see it in the movie theater today in previews, so check it out. Let us know what you think about it. I mean, look, the cast is stellar. The movie, we will figure it out. I mean, when you got like log lines like it pays to switch sides, the cop goes gangster. Yeah, I mean,
will say I'm
movie...
a little disappointed. I liked the ensemble cast of the first film.
I know, right?
You know, I liked the other guys joking around with each other, playing off each other, you know, having each other's back. This one, it doesn't look like it's going to be humorous like the first one. The first one did have some funny bits in it. So we'll see, you know, so in that regard, I'm a little disappointed that it's just these two guys for the most part, but we'll see.
I mean, maybe they just couldn't afford to bring everybody back. But yeah, no, I'm
well, no, they killed everybody. Everybody died the first one.
Well, there you go.
Gerard done got him. He done got him the first one.
That goes to tell you, I haven't seen the first one yet, and I will have to watch it before I watch the second one, because obviously I missed a lot. With that said, though, guys, let us know in the comments if you are looking forward to seeing Den of Thieves 2, and if you are, or if you have already seen it, then let us know down below what you thought about it. Of course, we'll be here talking about it next week on Also Curious Times DCU Daily. As John just said right there, hit that notification bell.
Hit the notification. Hit the subscribe.
Half of you guys are not subscribed. Hit the subscribe button, people. We are here 5 days a week. And 6 of you
still need to like the episode. Like, come on.
Yeah, come on, man. We need a few more likes. Let's get this out in front of more eyes, and then we'll grow the community we've got here. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow with an episode of DCU Daily. We're going to do a DCU Daily times MCU Weekly like last week, and so you'll have your daily dose of DC, but then we'll get into some Marvel news as well. And then on Friday, we've got another DCU Daily. So we got Lizz tomorrow. John is back, and then we'll see you on Friday as well. Until then, of course, if you haven't already, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live tomorrow. And yeah, I mean, go out to a movie theater. It's a Thursday night. Check out a bunch of movies. Lizz just checked out 2 movies today, 3 movies the day before, probably 5 movies tomorrow. And then John, of course, I'm sure you're gonna wake up and watch Wallace and Gromit again for the second time on Netflix. I'm gonna try to check it out this weekend. So we've got lots of movies everywhere.
We gotta watch the end of Creature Commandos.
Creature Commandos is something we didn't even talk about today, but Creature Commandos is dropping its season finale in a matter of
half an hour for people on the East Coast.
Half an hour. Holy
Actually, half an hour
cow.
For all time zones. Yeah,
I was gonna stay up and check it out.
Okay, we'll do it live. We'll do it live.
We'll do a live reaction right now. We'll just stay on, and then
you guys want to volunteer for that? Like I'll just hop off and you guys can do that.
Yeah, sure you will, Dan.
That's not fair.
But hey, you know what? We'll be talking about Creature Commandos tomorrow, the season finale, and then of course we got lots more to look forward to. So until next time, guys, go out there, watch something in a movie theater, at home, Netflix, wherever you check out your movies. Come back and talk to us about it. We will see you tomorrow on another episode of DCU Daily. Oh, there's the outro.